She tempted him for months, but when he finally gave in, the kiss almost ruined everything. What happens when the man you want most is terrified of choosing you? This is a story about suppressed desire, impossible choices, and the moment when running away is no longer an option. Before we begin, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hype this video to help the channel grow. Hailey had turned provocation into an art form, not the obvious, desperate kind that screamed for attention. No, hers was subtle, calculated, almost invisible to anyone who wasn't paying attention, and Scott Cooper always paid attention. Twice a week, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, promptly at 10:15 in the morning, she crossed the hallway on the 12th floor of the Cooper Resort Group with 2 cups in her hands. One was for the finance department, the other was pure strategy. On that specific Tuesday, she was carrying 2 caramel frappuccinos with whipped cream. The sweet aroma mingled with the gardenia perfume she wore, a fragrance she knew left a trail even after she had passed. Her heels tapped on the Italian marble in a confident rhythm that announced her arrival, even before he looked up, and he always looked up. Scott Cooper was 35 years old, almost a decade older than her. He was a founding partner of Cooper & Associates, a chain of luxury resorts scattered along the West Coast. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a sharp jawline, and gray-blue eyes that seemed to read every thought she tried to hide. He was also her brother's best friend since college, which technically placed him in forbidden territory. But Hailey never cared much for prohibitions. She slowed her pace as she approached the frosted glass door with his name engraved in gold letters. Through the glass, she could see his silhouette bent over the desk, concentrating on scattered documents. The morning light streamed through the wide windows, illuminating his angular profile, his dark hair slightly messy from running his hands through it so many times. 3 light knocks on the door. He lifted his head. For a fraction of a second, something crossed his face. It wasn't surprise because he expected her, even if he would never admit it. It was something deeper, more dangerous, which he quickly hid behind a controlled smile. "Come in." The voice came out grave, slightly hoarse, the way it got after hours on the phone with investors. Hailey pushed the door open with her hip, balancing the drinks with rehearsed skill. "Brought fuel," she said with a smile she had practiced in the mirror until it looked natural. "Figured you needed it. Heard the San Francisco conference was tense." Scott leaned back in his leather chair, crossing his arms over his chest. The movement made the muscles in his forearms tense beneath the rolled-up sleeves of his white shirt. She pretended not to notice the way the fabric hugged his shoulders. "You know a lot for someone who works 3 floors down," he replied, but there was amusement in his voice. "I pay attention to the right things." She placed one of the cups on his desk, close enough that their fingers nearly touched. "Caramel frappuccino, no extra sugar, with that dash of cinnamon you like." His eyes narrowed slightly, studying her with that intensity that made her stomach flip. "You memorized my drink?" "I memorize a lot of things." Hailey held his gaze without flinching. "For example, I know you run your hand through your hair exactly 7 times when you're stressed, and that you do it before making any major decision." The air between them grew thick, charged. Outside, the distant sound of the city created a constant soundtrack, but inside, there was only that palpable electricity pulsing in the 30-centimeter space that separated them. "Hailey," he said her name slowly, like a warning. "Relax, Scott. It's just a drink. I'm not proposing marriage." He let out a short, involuntary laugh and ran a hand through his hair. "Once." She smiled internally. "So predictable. Does Tyler know you keep showing up here?" The mention of her brother should have created discomfort. It should have. But Hailey merely shrugged. "Tyler knows I work here, and that I'm polite to everyone, even to you." "Polite?" Scott repeated the word as if testing its weight on his tongue. "Exactly. Polite and professional." She took a step back, but not before letting her fingers glide along the edge of the desk. A subtle touch, purposeful. "Unless you'd prefer me to be cold and distant." His eyes traced a slow path over the dress she was wearing, moving up from her heels until they returned to her face. There was hunger in that look, restraint, conflict. "You know exactly what I prefer," he said, his voice coming out huskier than usual. Her heart sped up, but Hailey maintained a tranquil expression. That was the game. Push, retreat, provoke without ever giving in. At least not yet. "Will I see you at dinner on Sunday?" she asked, already turning toward the door. "I'll be there." "Great, I'll wear that red dress you pretended not to notice last month." She didn't wait for a response. She exited with the same calculated confidence, but she could feel the weight of his gaze burning through the fabric of her dress, marking every step. She took down the hallway. On the other side of the door, Scott picked up the frappuccino she had left. It was still ice cold, condensation droplets running down the plastic cup. He brought it to his lips and tasted it. Cinnamon, exactly how he liked it. He closed his eyes, trying to ward off the thoughts he shouldn't be having. But Hailey Bryant wasn't easy to forget. She never had been. And the more she provoked, the harder it became to maintain the line he had sworn never to cross. That line was becoming dangerously thin. The following Thursday arrived with atypical heat for Orange County. The building's air conditioning was working at maximum power, but even so, the environment seemed to carry a humidity that clung to the skin. Hailey chose a light gray dress, a breezy fabric that flowed with every movement. Her hair was pulled back into a low bun, leaving her neck exposed. It wasn't a provocative look, at least not obviously, but she knew Scott noticed details: the curve of her neck, the more intense perfume, the way she bit her lower lip when she was concentrating. 10:15 in the morning, as always. This time she carried strawberry and banana smoothies, healthy, innocent, but they served the purpose. His office door was slightly ajar. She could hear his voice on the phone, speaking fluent Spanish with someone from the resort in Cabo. His accent was impeccable, his voice rising and falling in cadences that did something strange to her stomach. Hailey waited for him to hang up before knocking on the door. "Come in," he said without lifting his eyes, still typing something on his laptop. She entered in silence, placing the smoothie on the desk. It was only when she turned to leave that he finally looked up. "Hailey," he said her name like someone holding a loaded weapon. "Dangerous. Necessary." "Scott." She turned, raising an eyebrow. "Need something?" He was silent for 3 seconds that stretched too long. His eyes mapped her face, descended along her neck, and returned to her eyes. "You're playing with fire." "You've said that before," she crossed her arms, tilting her hips slightly. "And I still don't understand what you're talking about. It's just a smoothie, Scott. Strawberry and banana. No big deal. It's not about the smoothie." "No?" She tilted her head, feigning innocence. "Then what is it about?" His jaw twitched. He rose from his chair, walked around the desk, and stopped 3 paces from her. Too close to be casual. Too far to be threatening. "You know exactly what it's about." "I don't think I do." Hailey took a step toward him, closing the gap. "Why don't you explain?" His eyes dropped to her mouth. They stayed there for 2-3 seconds. She could see the battle raging in his head. Desire versus responsibility. Will versus duty. "You are my best friend's sister," he finally said, but his voice came out, weak, without conviction. And I'm 35. You're 26. Math was never my strong suit." She took another step. They were now less than a meter apart. "But I think 9 years isn't that dramatic." "Hailey." He ran a hand through his hair. Twice, 3 times. "This can't happen." "What can't happen, Scott?" She tilted her head, challenging him to say it out loud. "We are not doing anything. I just brought a drink. You are reading things that don't exist." But they both knew it was a lie. His phone rang, shattering the moment like breaking glass. Scott looked away, picked up the device on the desk, and ended the call without looking at who it was. "You need to stop," he said, but it sounded more like a plea than an order. "Stop what?" "Appearing here. Looking at me like that. This," he vaguely gestured between the two of them. "This thing." Hailey felt something cold in her chest. Anger, frustration, but above all, determination. "All right," she said with a calm she didn't feel. "If that's what you want." She turned to leave, but before she reached the door, his voice stopped her. "It's not what I want." Hailey looked over her shoulder. Scott was standing in the same spot, his hands clenched into fists at his sides, his expression torn. "Then what do you want, Scott?" He opened his mouth, closed it, ran his hand through his hair one more time. "I don't know," he lied, but she saw the truth in his eyes. He knew exactly what he wanted. He was just too afraid to admit it. "When you figure it out," Hailey said softly, "I'll be here." And then she left, leaving the untouched smoothie on his desk and a tension so thick in the air it seemed to have texture. Scott stood in the empty office for 5 full minutes, staring at the door she had exited through. Then he picked up the smoothie and brought it to his lips. It was sweet, perfect, exactly how he liked it, although he had never told her. But Hailey always knew. That was the most dangerous part. The weekend arrived with torturous slowness. Hailey spent Saturday trying to distract herself. She met Kate, Tyler's girlfriend, for brunch at a cafe in Newport Beach. The two were close, and Kate had an irritating talent for reading between the lines. "You look different," Kate said, taking a sip of her iced peach tea. "More restless." "Work," Hailey answered too quickly. "A lot of projects." Kate raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. She worked as a brand consultant and had eyes trained to detect lies. "Are you sure it's just work?" "Absolutely. Nothing to do with a certain blue-eyed founding partner?" Hailey's heart stumbled, but she maintained a neutral expression. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Of course you don't," Kate smiled, resting her chin on her hand. "Just like he doesn't spend half of Sunday dinner looking at you when he thinks no one is paying attention." "Kate, relax, I won't tell Tyler yet." She took a strawberry from the bowl between them. "But you should be more careful. My boyfriend is protective, and Scott is basically a brother to him." "There's nothing for Tyler to worry about," Hailey said. And this time it wasn't a lie, because there really was nothing. Just tension, provocation, unrequited desire. At least that's what she kept repeating to herself. Sunday arrived too quickly. The weekly dinner at Tyler's parents' house had been a tradition since Hailey could remember. Their mother, Beverly, cooked elaborate dishes. Their father, Christopher, told endless stories about the law firm where he worked. Tyler and Kate brought dessert. And Scott was always there, until that Sunday. Hailey arrived at 6 in the evening, wearing a simple white dress. Her mother always said enhanced her tan. She walked through the front door without knocking, the smell of roasting filling the house. "I'm here," she announced, taking off her heels and leaving them at the entrance. "We're in the kitchen." Beverly's voice came from the back of the house. Hailey found the family gathered. Tyler was slicing bread. Kate was helping with the salad. Her father was reading the newspaper at the table, but there was an empty place. The corner chair where Scott always sat. "Where's Scott?" She tried to sound casual, but the question came out too, quickly. "Had to cancel," Tyler replied without lifting his eyes. "Something about an emergency meeting in San Diego. He'll be out for a few days." Hailey felt something sink in her stomach. He was running away. Again. "That's a shame," she said, and hated how weak her voice sounded. Dinner went on normally. Conversations about work, politics, a distant cousin's wedding. But Hailey barely registered anything. Her mind was elsewhere, stuck in an empty office on the 12th floor, on gray-blue eyes that refused to admit what they both knew to be true. "Hailey? Earth to..." "Hailey?" Tyler snapped his fingers in front of her face. "On what?" "I asked if you're going to the event on Thursday, the annual resort gala." The gala. She had completely forgotten. "Oh, yes, I'm going. Scott will be there too," Tyler commented casually, but there was something calculated in his tone. "Maybe you two could go together, share a car since you work in the same building." Kate coughed, hiding a laugh. Hailey shot her a death glare. "No need. I have a car. It would be more practical," Tyler insisted, and now there was definitely something in his voice. Suspicion, curiosity, amusement. "Tyler, leave the girl alone," Beverly intervened, always saving her daughter. "If she wants to go alone, she'll go alone." Hailey gave her mother a grateful look and quickly changed the subject. But in the car, driving back to her apartment, she couldn't stop thinking. The gala. Scott would be there. It would be the perfect chance. She picked up her phone, opened the conversation with him. Her last message from Wednesday was unanswered. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She started typing, deleted it, started again. She finally gave up. She tossed the phone onto the passenger seat. If Scott wanted to run, let him run. But on Thursday, he wouldn't have a choice. He would be there. And Hailey had plans. Plans that involved a dress she still needed to buy. Something that would make him regret every second. He spent avoiding her. Something that would prove, once and for all, that what existed between them wasn't just in her head. Thursday was only 4 days away, and Hailey Bryant always played to win. The dress was a declaration of war. Hailey spent 3 hours in Newport Beach on Tuesday, and out of boutiques until she found the perfect weapon. It wasn't the kind of dress a woman wore hoping to go unnoticed. It was the kind that made conversations stop mid-sentence. The kind that Scott Cooper wouldn't be able to ignore, no matter how hard he tried. Liquid emerald silk that looked like it had been poured over her body, the back completely bare, the cut plunging into a deep V down to the base of her spine. The front was demure, almost innocent, rising to the base of her neck. But when she turned around, there was nothing innocent about it. Kate almost dropped her acai smoothie cup when Hailey tried the dress on for her on Wednesday. "You're going to kill the man," Kate said, eyes wide. "You're going to give him a heart attack." "That's the plan." Hailey spun in front of the mirror, watching how the fabric caught the light. "He wants to avoid me? Fine, let's see if he can avoid me wearing this. Tyler is going to flip out. Tyler will survive." Kate crossed her legs, studying her friend with that analytical gaze she used in business meetings. "You really like him, don't you? It's not just a provocation." Hailey stopped spinning. For a moment she considered lying, but it was Kate. If there was anyone she trusted, it was her. Yes, I like him. A lot. In a way that makes no sense, but also makes all the sense in the world." She sat on the edge of the bed. "And I know he feels the same way. I see it in his eyes, in the way he looks at me when he thinks no one is paying attention. But he's so busy feeling guilty, so caught up in this idiotic code of loyalty to Tyler, that he can't admit it. So you're going to force his hand." "I'm going to make it crystal clear that I'm not giving up," Hailey corrected. "If he wants to keep pretending that nothing exists between us, that's his problem. But it won't be because I didn't try." Kate smiled slowly, the smile of someone who knew exactly how power games worked. "You're diabolical. I love you." Thursday arrived with agonizing slowness. Hailey spent the day at the office trying to concentrate on reports, but her mind was on the evening's event. She checked her phone obsessively. No message from Scott. He was probably still in San Diego until that afternoon, avoiding running into her in the building. Coward. At 5 in the afternoon, she left the office early, claiming a headache. A lie. She needed time. For her hair, for her makeup, to transform herself into someone impossible to ignore. Her apartment was in Costa Mesa, a small but well-decorated space she had rented since she started working at the resort. Nothing luxurious like the penthouses Scott was probably used to, but it was hers. She took a long bath, using the vanilla soap that left her skin soft. She rubbed perfumed lotion over every inch of her body, did her nails. Her hair was left down in natural waves that cascaded over her back like a dark honey waterfall. The makeup was strategic, smoky eyes in bronze and gold tones, lengthened lashes, lips in a rosy nude that looked natural, but took 15 minutes to perfect. Nothing exaggerated, just enhanced. At 7 in the evening, she slipped the dress over her body. The fabric was cold against her skin, fitting like a second skin. Her shoes were crystal heels that reflected the light with every step. The only jewelry was discreet diamond earrings. The dress spoke for itself. She looked at herself in the full-length mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Confident, dangerous, beautiful in a way that didn't need validation but still demanded it. "Scott Cooper," she said to her reflection, "you won't know what hit you." The Cooper Resort Group annual gala was the social event of the season. Held in the main ballroom of the flagship resort in Newport Coast, it attracted the elite of Orange County, business people, politicians, local celebrities, all dressed in their finest attire, circulating among tables decorated with white orchids and crystal candles. The ballroom was an architectural masterpiece, vaulted ceiling with Swarovski crystal chandeliers that looked like waterfalls of light, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a view of the Pacific Ocean, marble floor so polished it reflected everything like a mirror. Annoying. 15-piece orchestra played in the corner, the sound of violins and cellos filling the space with classical melodies. Waiters circulated with trays of rosé champagne and exotic fruit juices in crystal flutes. Hailey arrived at 8:15, deliberately late. She made sure to park far away to have that long walk to the main entrance, where she knew everyone would see her arrive. The main staircase was the focal point of the ballroom, white marble with gold railings, a dramatic descent that seemed designed for memorable entrances. Hailey paused at the top, one hand lightly on the railing, letting the dress shimmer under the light of the chandeliers. She could feel the eyes turning in her direction, conversations lowering in volume, but she wasn't looking for their attention. She was looking for a specific pair of gray-blue eyes, and then she found him. Scott was in the center of the ballroom, talking with two investors she recognized from previous meetings. He was wearing an impeccable black tuxedo, bow tie, his hair neatly slicked back, making that angular jawline look even more defined. And then he saw her. It was like watching someone get struck by lightning. His entire body froze. The glass of cranberry juice he was holding stopped halfway to his lips. His eyes widened slightly, his mouth opening just enough for her to realize he had forgotten to breathe. His eyes took a slow path, starting at the crystal, heels, moving up her legs, lingering on the way the silk hugged her hips, continuing to the demure neckline, and then he realized that she would eventually have to turn around. Hailey smiled, small, victorious. She began to descend, each step measured, the fabric flowing like water around her legs. She greeted people along the way, a nod here, a smile there, but her attention was divided, always aware of exactly where Scott was. He didn't move. He remained planted in that same spot, the conversation with the investors clearly abandoned. She could see his jaw clenching, the way his fingers squeezed the glass. Perfect. Hailey reached the bottom of the staircase and was immediately intercepted by Jenkins, her supervisor, who was animatedly talking about the last quarter's occupancy numbers. She nodded, smiled, pretended to pay attention, but her internal radar was fully focused on Scott. 10 minutes passed, then 15. She chatted with the marketing director, with the event manager, accepted compliments about the dress with rehearsed grace, and she waited, because she knew he would come. Men like Scott Cooper didn't resist challenges, and that dress was a challenge wrapped in emerald silk. That's when she felt that unmistakable presence behind her, the woody scent she would recognize anywhere. Sandalwood, something darker, something purely him. "Excuse me," Scott's voice cut into the conversation she was having with one of the event sponsors, polite, firm, with an undercurrent of something more dangerous. "May I steal Hailey for a moment?" The woman smiled the way older women smile when they recognize sexual tension from a mile away. "Of course, Mr. Cooper. She's all yours." Hailey turned, slowly, almost in slow motion, giving him enough time to see exactly what the bare back did to the dress. She heard the subtle sound of air being sucked in between his teeth. "Scott," she said, her voice perfectly neutral, as if she hadn't spent hours preparing for this moment. "I didn't know you were back from San Diego yet." His eyes were darker under the soft light of the chandeliers. There was something wild there that he was trying to control, but he was losing the battle. "I came back this afternoon," he said, and his voice was husky. "Dance with me." It wasn't a request. It was practically an order disguised as an invitation. "I thought you were avoiding me." Hailey tilted her head, feigning innocence. "After that talk on Tuesday about how I needed to stop," something flashed in his eyes. Guilt, desire, frustration. "Dance with me," he repeated, and this time it sounded like a plea. She held out her hand. When his fingers wrapped around hers, the electricity was immediate, intense, undeniable. He led her onto the dance floor where dozens of other couples were already moving to the sound of a slow, sensual tango. The orchestra had changed the tone of the night, something more intimate, more dangerous. Scott's hand found its place on her bare back, and Hailey felt every nerve ending light up at the same time. His palm was hot, slightly rough, spreading possessively over her exposed skin. "You are playing a dangerous game," he murmured close to her ear as they began to move. "I don't know what you're talking about," she replied, raising her face to look at him. The height difference required her to tilt her head back, but that only intensified the proximity. "It's just a dress." "It's not just a dress." Scott twirled her, making the silk open like flower petals. When he brought her back, it was closer than before. And you know it. I wore what I had in my closet. A blatant lie. It's not my fault if you're reading things that don't exist. His jaw clenched. The fingers on her back began to move, drawing slow, almost distracted circles on her skin, sending waves of heat throughout her body. Why are you doing this? Doing what? She let her hand on his shoulder slide down slightly, her fingers brushing the base of his neck where she could feel his pulse accelerating. Dancing. Because you asked me to. Hailey. Her name came out as a warning, as a promise. Scott. She returned in the same tone, her lips curling into a small smile. You seem tense. Was the San Diego trip bad? He twirled her again, this time harder, making her spin before bringing her back pressed against his body. Now there was no space between them. None. His chest pressed against hers, their legs moving in perfect sync. I didn't go to San Diego, he admitted in a low voice, too close to her ear. I went to the beach house in Malibu, alone, trying to think. Think about what? His eyes dropped to her mouth, staying there for 3 full seconds before returning to her gaze. About how I'm drowning, and you are the air I shouldn't breathe. Hailey's heart stumbled, but she kept her voice steady. You complicate everything, always. Because it is complicated, he countered, but the fingers on her back said otherwise, tracing patterns, memorizing every curve. You're Tyler's sister. You work with me. You're 26 and have your whole life ahead of you. I'm almost a decade older and have a mountain of baggage you can't even imagine. So that's it? She asked, tilting her body back just enough to fully face him while they still moved. You're going to keep hiding behind excuses? Behind Tyler? The age difference? Whatever other reason you invent to justify being afraid? Afraid? The word came out sharp. You think it's fear? I know it is, she said with conviction. Because if it wasn't, you would have crossed this line weeks ago. You would have stopped pretending you don't feel exactly what I feel every time we're in the same room. The music changed. Something even slower, more sensual, more intimate. Scott pulled her closer again, pressing her body to his. Now she could feel every tense muscle in his body. The heat, the strength, the self-control that was clearly hanging by a thread. You don't know what you're asking. For, he said, his voice so low she had to lean in to hear over the music. Then show me. His eyes closed for a long second. When he opened them, there was something raw there, something exposed that made her heart race. If I cross this line, Hailey, there is no going back. Do you understand that? I can't kiss you and pretend it was a mistake. I can't touch you and then act like nothing happened. Who said I want you to pretend? His hand moved up from her back to the nape of her neck, his fingers lacing through her loose hair. It was a gesture too intimate for a crowded dance floor, too possessive to be casual. You're killing me, he whispered, slowly, and you know it. Good, she whispered back, her lips inches from his now. Because you killed me first that day in the office when you told me to stop showing up, when you pretended this was all in my head. It was never just in your head, he admitted. Never. Not since the first day you walked into that office with that cold drink and that smile that seemed to know exactly what it did to me. And what did I do to you? Scott rested his forehead against hers, closing his eyes again, his breathing ragged. Made me forget all the reasons why I should keep my distance. Made me want things I can't have. Made me daydream about scenarios that go against everything I promised your brother and myself. Then stop promising stupid things, she said, her voice firm despite her racing heart. Stop sacrificing what you want for what you think you should want. The music was coming to an end. Couples around them began to separate, applauding the orchestra. But Scott and Hailey remained still in the middle of the floor, trapped in that moment, in that tiny space where only they existed. I need to get out of here, Scott finally said, his voice strained. Before I do something. But he didn't let go of her, not immediately. His fingers remained intertwined in her hair, his other hand still flat on her, bare back, as if his body refused to obey what his head commanded. Scott, she began, but she was interrupted by a cheerful voice. There you two are. Tyler appeared beside them with Kate on his arm, both smiling. The orchestra is taking a break. Shall we get some drinks? Hailey felt Scott pull away as if he had been burned. His body stiffened, the professional mask sliding back into place so quickly that she almost doubted those last few minutes had happened. "Sure," Scott said, his voice controlled, neutral, as if he hadn't just admitted things that turned her world upside down. "I'll grab a juice. Anyone else want anything?" "Champagne for me," Kate said, giving Hailey a loaded look that clearly said, "We are going to talk about this later." "Strawberry smoothie if they have it," Hailey said, forcing her voice to sound normal despite the tightness in her chest. Tyler looked between the two of them, that wrinkle of suspicion appearing between his eyebrows. "You two were dancing for quite a while," he commented, too casual to be casual. "The music was good," Scott replied, already walking away. "Be right back." And then he was gone, leaving Hailey standing there with her brother and Kate, her heart still pounding, her skin still burning where he had touched her. "Are you okay?" Tyler asked, studying his sister's face. "Great," she lied. "I just need some fresh air." Without waiting for a response, Hailey turned and walked towards the exit, her heels clicking on the marble, the emerald dress shining under the lights. She needed to breathe, to think, to process what the hell had just happened. Because Scott had admitted it, finally, he had put into words what they had both been dancing around for months. But admitting wasn't the same as acting, and Hailey was getting tired of waiting for a man who insisted on fighting the only thing they both wanted. The balcony was just a corridor away, and she had a feeling that the night was far from over. The 23rd floor balcony was a well-kept secret. Few employees knew about this space, hidden at the end of a side hallway behind an unassuming door marked only maintenance. Hailey had discovered the place by chance 6 months ago, during a night of work that stretched until 3 in the morning. It was a narrow refuge surrounded by jasmine vines that climbed the iron railings. The only light came from the soft glow filtering out of the ballroom windows, creating dancing shadows on the exposed brick walls. From there, it was possible to see Orange County stretching out in all directions, an infinite ocean of lights blinking like floating candles in the darkness. Hailey rested her hands on the cold railing, letting the night breeze cool her overheated skin. The wind came straight from the Pacific, bringing with it the smell of sea salt and something floral from the surrounding plants. She closed her eyes, trying to organize the thoughts swirling chaotically in her head. "Made me daydream about scenarios that go against everything I promised." His words still echoed. Raw, honest, finally honest. But honesty wasn't the same as courage. And Scott Cooper, for all his professional success and confidence, was an emotional coward. She heard the door open behind her. She didn't need to turn around to know who it was. Her body recognized his presence before her brain even processed it, like a radar tuned to a specific frequency. "Hailey." His voice was low, tense, like a violin string pulled too tight, about to snap. "You should have stayed inside," she said without turning around, keeping her eyes on the illuminated city below. "With Tyler and Kate, drinking your cranberry juice, pretending that dance didn't happen." She heard his footsteps approaching, slow, hesitant, as if each step was a battle against himself. "I tried," he admitted, stopping a few feet away. Too close to be casual, too far for what they both wanted. "I stayed there for 5 minutes, talking about occupancy numbers and expansion plans, smiling, nodding, being the professional Scott Cooper everyone expects. And I couldn't." His voice came out frustrated. "Because you weren't there. Because all I could think about was where you had gone. If you were okay. If you were alone. If you were..." He stopped, as if the words were too dangerous to finish. Hailey finally turned around, leaning her back against the railing, crossing her arms over her chest. He was 10 feet away, his hands shoved into his pants pockets, his shoulders tense, his hair slightly messy where he had run his fingers through. "If I was what, Scott?" He ran his hand through his hair, 1, 2, 3 times. The telltale gesture she knew so well. "If you were thinking about me." The air between them became electrified, charged with everything they couldn't say, shouldn't feel, but felt anyway. "Always," she said simply. "I always think about you. When I wake up, when I go to sleep, when I'm at the office pretending to work while wondering if you're going to show up. When I choose a dress wondering if you'll notice." She gestured to the emerald dress. "Especially when I choose a dress." Something flashed in his eyes. Hunger, pain, desperation. "You can't say those things to me." Why not? They're true, because they make everything infinitely harder. He took a step toward her, closing some of the distance. Because it's hard enough to look at you without wanting to. He stopped abruptly, clamping his mouth shut. Without wanting what? She tilted her head, challenging him. Finish the sentence, Scott. For the first time in your life, finish the damn sentence without hiding behind excuses. Without wanting to pull you into my office and lock the door, he said, the words coming out fast, raw, as if they had been forcibly extracted. Without wanting to run my fingers over that bare back and find out if your skin is as soft as it looks. Without wanting to know what that lipstick tastes like, whether your hair smells like gardenia, or if it's just the perfume. Without wanting to find out if you make that little sound in the back of your throat when you're kissed the right way. Hailey's heart stopped, started again, accelerated. Scott, no. He raised his hand, still keeping his distance. Let me finish. You asked for honesty. You're going to get it. I think about you constantly, in ways that make me feel guilty because you are my best friend's sister. In ways that make me feel old because you are 26 and deserve someone in the same phase of life. In ways that scare me, because I've never felt this before and I don't know what to do with this intensity. He took another step. Now he was only 5 feet away. I dream about you, he continued, his voice hoarse. I wake up in the middle of the night with my body tense and your name on my lips. I walk past the 12th floor on Mondays and Wednesdays even when I have meetings, just for a chance to see you. I memorize every detail, the way you bite your lip when you're concentrating, how you twist your hair around your finger when you're thinking, the sound of your laugh when something catches you by surprise. Hailey felt the air leave her lungs. Then why do you fight it? Because I have to fight, he said. But there was desperation in his voice now. Because if I don't fight, if I allow myself to have you, I'll want everything. And everything with you is too scary. It's too intense. It's too real. She moved away from the railing, taking a step toward him. He didn't back down. What if I want it to be real? Hailey, you don't know what you're asking for. Stop deciding what I know or don't know. She took another step. Now there was less than 3 feet between them. I'm 26 years old, Scott. I'm not a confused teenager. I know what I feel, I know what I want, and I don't need you protecting me from myself. I'm not trying to protect you from you, he countered, finally taking his hands out of his pockets. I'm trying to protect you from me, because I'm not good at this, at relationships, at vulnerability, at giving people what they deserve. Let me decide what I deserve. What about Tyler? The question came out sharp. How do I look at my best friend and tell him I can't stop thinking about his sister? How do I have dinner at your parents' house every Sunday knowing I'm lying to everyone there? Tyler doesn't own me, Hailey retorted, her voice firm. And he certainly shouldn't be the reason you deny what you feel. If your friendship is as strong as you say, he'll understand. He will? Scott let out a humorless laugh. He'll understand that the guy he trusts like a brother is obsessed with his younger sister? That I spend half the meetings thinking about you instead of paying attention to the numbers? Obsessed? She raised an eyebrow, her lips curving slightly. Is that the word you choose? He closed his eyes, clenching his jaw. You know what I meant. I do, but I liked hearing it anyway. His eyes opened, and what she saw there made her heart skip a beat. It wasn't just desire, it was need, hunger, something deeper than physical attraction. You are an idiot. You've said that. She took the final step, eliminating the distance between them. Now she was close enough to feel the heat emanating from his body, to see the tiny gold flecks in his gray-blue irises. But you still haven't told me what you're going to do about it. His breathing hitched. What should I do? Kissing me would be a start. The air grew thick, heavy, charged with an electricity so intense that Hailey could almost see sparks in the space between them. Scott raised his hand, hesitant as if testing dangerous waters. His fingers brushed her. Cheek moving up to brush away a lock of hair the wind had displaced. The touch was too gentle, too delicate, betraying his internal conflict. If I do this, he said, his voice barely a whisper, it won't just be a kiss. I know. No, you don't. He held her face with both hands now, his thumbs caressing her cheekbones. You don't understand how long I've spent imagining this. How much self-control I've had to have every time you walked into that office. Every time you provoked me with that smile. Every time you wore a dress that made it crystal clear you knew exactly what you were doing. Then show me, she challenged, lifting her chin. Stop talking and show me. Something broke inside him. She watched it happen. The surrender, the acceptance, the decision to stop fighting, at least for a moment. He leaned his head down, his eyes closing, his breath mingling with hers in the minimal space that still separated them. Hailey rose onto her toes, her hands moving up to his chest, feeling his racing heart beneath her palm. Millimeters. They were millimeters apart. She could feel the heat of his lips almost touching hers. She could see every detail of his face so close, the small lines around his eyes, the light shadow of stubble that was starting to grow, his lower lip slightly fuller than the upper one. "Hailey," he whispered, and it sounded like a prayer and a curse all at once. And then the door burst open. "Scott, sorry to interrupt." The event manager's voice cut through the moment like a blade. Scott pulled away so fast that Hailey almost lost her balance, his hand leaving her face as if he'd been shocked. "The Seattle investors are leaving," the manager continued, completely oblivious to what had almost happened. "They want to speak with you before they go, something about the Portland resort." Scott ran a hand through his hair, the gesture abrupt now, frustrated, the professional mask sliding back into place, but this time she saw the effort it took. "I'll be right there," he said, his voice too controlled. "1 minute." The manager nodded and disappeared, leaving the door ajar. The silence that fell was different from before, no longer charged with promises. Now it was filled with frustration and unwanted reality. "I need to go," Scott said, but he didn't. "Move immediately." "I know." He looked at her and there was agony in those eyes. Unfulfilled desire, regret, fear. "Hailey, No," she interrupted him, surprising herself with the firmness in her voice. "Don't say it was a mistake. Don't say it shouldn't have happened. Don't insult us by pretending you don't know exactly what almost happened here." He closed his eyes, his head falling back as if in pain. "This can't continue like this." "I agree," she said, crossing her arms. "So you need to decide. For real. Not tomorrow. Not next week when you come back from another convenient trip. Now. It's not that simple." "It is exactly that simple," she countered. "Either you stop fighting and admit that this is worth the risk, or you leave me alone once and for all and stop giving me hope that you clearly won't fulfill." His jaw clenched, the muscles in his neck tensed. "You don't know what you're asking of me." "I'm asking for courage," she said simply. "I'm asking you to be half the man you pretend to be in business meetings. I'm asking you to stop treating this like a business transaction with calculated risks and start treating it like what it is. Two people who want the same thing, but one of them is too afraid to try." He took a step toward her, his face tight. "You think it's just fear? Do you think I don't want to pull you into me right now and finish what we started? Do you think I don't spend entire nights imagining what it would be like to have you, what it would be like to wake up with you, what it would be like not to have to pretend? Then stop fighting it." "I can't." The word came out explosive, frustrated. He turned his back. "You don't understand. It's not just about Tyler. It's not just about the age difference. It's about the fact that I don't know how to do this without messing everything up, without hurting you, without ruining what you have with your family, with your brother." Hailey walked around him, positioning herself in front of him, forcing him to face her. "Then let me decide if it's worth the risk," she said. "Stop making decisions for me. Stop protecting me from things I don't need protection from. And stop using Tyler as an excuse for your own cowardice." The word hit its target. She saw it in his eyes. "Cowardice?" "Yes, cowardice," she repeated without backing down. "Because a brave man would have come to me weeks ago and told me the truth. A brave man would have risked the difficult conversation with his best friend instead of running away. A brave man would have kissed me just now instead of calculating consequences." He stared at her for a long moment. She could see the battle happening in his head. She could see the exact moment the wounded pride began to speak louder than the fear. "You want courage?" he said, his voice low but dangerous. "All right, here it goes. I think about you every single goddamn hour of the day. I want you in ways that make me feel guilty and turned on at the same time. I imagine scenarios I shouldn't imagine, in inappropriate places, in ways that are definitely not appropriate for the office. He took a step toward her, and this time there was something different in his presence. It wasn't haste, it was truth, a silent weight that was finally letting go of its restraint. "I want to find out who you are when you don't have to protect yourself," he said, his voice lower, rawer. "I want to know how you react when you let your guard down, what changes in you when we're alone, and what stays the same when the world is watching. I want to understand why your presence disarms me this way." Hailey's heart was beating so hard it seemed to echo in the space between them. "But above all," he continued, now just inches away from her, "I want to stop feeling like I'm wrong just for feeling this. I want it to be simple. I want it not to hurt this way, but it isn't, and I don't know how to make it easy." She raised her hands and held his face with serene firmness, forcing him to look at her. "Then don't try to make it easy," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. "Let it be complicated. Let it be difficult. Let it even be scary. But stop pretending it doesn't exist, because I prefer you with all your doubts than the safe absence of someone who never tried." For a moment, it seemed like he was going to give in, that he was finally going to cross that line. His eyes dropped to her mouth, his breathing grew heavier, his body leaned imperceptibly toward hers, but then he pulled back, physically taking a step back, removing his face from her hands, creating distance. "I need to go," he said, and his voice was empty now, controlled. "The investors are waiting." Hailey let her hands drop but kept her chin up. Of course, the investors. He hesitated at the door, put his hand on the frame but didn't look back. "Hailey, go," she said, surprisingly calm. "Go take care of your business. After all, that's what you're good at. Running away is starting to look good on your resume, too." She saw his shoulders tense at the words, saw his hand squeeze the doorframe until his knuckles turned white, but he didn't turn around. He simply left, the door closing behind him with a soft click that sounded far too final. Hailey stood on the balcony for 5 full minutes, looking at the closed door, processing everything that had happened, everything that had almost happened. He had admitted everything, put into words every thought, every desire, every fantasy. He had taken off all his masks and shown the raw truth, and then he had run away anyway. She should have been angry, frustrated, hurt, and she was. But above all, she was determined, because now she knew with absolute certainty that he felt the same way, that it wasn't just in her head, that the connection was real, the attraction was mutual, the desire was reciprocal. The problem wasn't a lack of feelings, it was an excess of them, and men afraid of feeling too much were the most dangerous, because they would do anything to avoid that vulnerability, even destroy the one thing that could make them happy. But Hailey Bryant didn't give up easily, and Scott Cooper was about to discover that provoking a woman for months, admitting she obsessed him, almost kissing her, and then running away was not a viable long-term strategy. She returned to the ballroom 10 minutes later, the emerald dress still impeccable, the makeup still perfect, her head held high. She found Kate near the bar, who immediately read the expression on her face. "What happened?" "Later," Hailey said, picking up a glass of berry smoothie. "Right now I just want to dance and forget that emotionally constipated men exist." Kate smiled, recognizing the tone. "Scott?" "Completely, but you still like him." Unfortunately, Kate put her arm around her friend's shoulders, pulling her toward the dance floor where Tyler was already with a group of colleagues from the resort. "He'll cave," Kate said with conviction. "Men like Scott always cave. They just need more time to process that they've already lost the battle. I'm not sure I want to wait any longer." "Liar," Kate smiled. "You'll wait because he's worth it, and you know it." Hailey didn't answer. She just let the music take over, moving to the rhythm, trying not to look for Scott in the ballroom. But even as she danced, laughing at Tyler's jokes, accepting compliments from colleagues about the dress, a part of her was stuck on that balcony, in that suspended moment, in that almost kiss that could have changed everything. And she knew, with the certainty that only comes from feminine intuition, that it wouldn't be the last time, that Scott Cooper was running, but he wouldn't be able to run forever, because some desires were too strong to be ignored, and what they felt for each other was quickly passing the point of no return. 3 days, 72 hours of absolute silence. Scott didn't text. He didn't call. He didn't show up at the office. The 12th floor remained empty, the door closed, the lights off, as if he had simply evaporated from the face of the earth. Hailey didn't text either. She refused to be the woman who chased a man who clearly preferred to run away than face what he felt. If Scott Cooper wanted distance, she would give him distance. But that didn't mean she was sitting around waiting. On Monday morning, Hailey walked into Jenkins' office with a leather folder containing 20 pages of detailed analysis. A proposal for the modernization of the customer service system across the entire resort chain. She had spent the whole weekend working, channeling all the frustration, all the wasted energy thinking about Scott into something productive. "This is impressive," Jenkins said, flipping through the pages, his reading glasses sliding down his nose. "Detailed, viable, innovative. Did you do this alone?" "Alone," she confirmed, keeping her voice professional. "The numbers show we can increase customer satisfaction by 40% in the first quarter if we implement these changes." Jenkins studied her over his glasses, with that look of someone evaluating more than just the proposal. "Are you ready to present this to the board?" Her heart raced, but she maintained a calm expression. "Absolutely. Great. Thursday, 2 in the afternoon. Prepare a 20-minute presentation." She left his office with what felt like a small but significant victory. She was building her career, proving her worth, becoming someone who didn't need validation from any man, no matter how much that specific man made her heart race. Kate called Tuesday night, insisting on meeting her for smoothies at their favorite spot in Corona del Mar. "You look too good," Kate said, studying her friend's face over her acai and banana smoothie bowl. "Which means you're definitely not okay." "I'm great," Hailey replied, taking a sip of her mango and passion fruit, working, focused, productive, and completely avoiding talking about the elephant in the room. Or, rather, the 6'1" man who practically devoured you with his eyes on Thursday. "There's nothing to talk about." "Liar." Kate leaned forward, lowering her voice even though they were alone in the corner. "Tyler mentioned that Scott canceled the business lunch they had scheduled for yesterday. Said he's taking care of personal matters and will be out for a few days." Hailey forced herself not to react, maintaining a neutral expression. "Good for him." "Hailey." "Kate, seriously, I'm fine. Scott made it clear that no matter what he feels, he won't do anything about it. So I'm moving on. I have an important presentation on Thursday. I have my career. I have my life. I won't wait around for someone who's too busy being a coward." Kate smiled slowly, in that way that meant she saw right through the facade. "You're angry. I'm focused. You're angry and hurt and trying to pretend you're not." Hailey sighed, letting the mask slip for a second. "Maybe, but what do I do with that? He practically admitted he's obsessed with me, listed every fantasy in detail, left me inches from being kissed, and then ran away as if I were radioactive. So yes, I'm angry. But more than that, I'm tired of letting his life dictate mine." "Good." Kate reached out, squeezing her hand. "Because men like Scott need to see what they're missing. They need to feel the absence before they value the presence." Wednesday arrived with a storm warning. Gray clouds covered the sky, the air heavy with the promise of rain. Hailey had been at the office since 7 in the morning, rehearsing the presentation, adjusting slides, memorizing every number. That's when Jenkins showed up at her cubicle door at 10:15. Exactly. The time she used to make deliveries on the 12th floor. The irony did not go unnoticed. "Hailey, I need a favor." "Sure." "We have urgent contracts that need signing for the closing of the Laguna Beach Resort. The renovation is almost complete, and the documents need to be there today. I'd send them by courier, but they're too confidential. I need someone trustworthy." She was already nodding before he finished. "I'll take them. It's a 3-hour drive." "No problem." "Great. Take the company car keys. The documents are with my assistant. And Hailey, I appreciate the availability. It shows initiative." 20 minutes later, she was on the road, driving a black company sedan down the Pacific Coast Highway. The ocean stretched out to her left, gray and choppy under the overcast sky. The wind made the palm trees sway violently. She turned on the radio, letting indie music fill the silence, and forced her mind to focus on the road. Not on Scott. Not on what would happen if he were there. Not on the words he had spoken on the balcony. But of course, her mind had its own plans. I want to find out how you react when you let your guard down. She turned up the radio volume. The resort in Laguna Beach was located on a rocky peninsula, isolated from the rest of the city by a winding private road. It was smaller than the flagship in Newport Coast, more intimate, designed to be an exclusive retreat for clients who valued privacy above all else. Hailey parked in the gravel courtyard at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The rain hadn't started yet, but the air was heavy, electric, as if the sky was just waiting for the right moment to open up. She got out of the car, grabbing the leather folder with the two contracts. She was wearing black tailored trousers and a simple white blouse. Nothing calculated, nothing provocative, just professional. And then she saw him. Scott was standing next to the main building, talking to 2 engineers, pointing to something on the architectural plans spread out over the hood of a Jeep. He was wearing dark jeans and a gray t-shirt that hugged his broad shoulders. His hair was messy, and his face had 3 days' worth of stubble. He looked tired, older, and yet, her heart reacted, as it always did. Instant acceleration, stomach flipping. All the determination to move on evaporated the second his eyes met hers. He froze. He literally stopped mid-sentence, his finger still pointing at the paper, his entire body stiffening as if he had seen a ghost. The engineers followed his gaze, noticing Hailey standing by the car. One of them said something, but Scott just shook his head, dismissing them with a distracted gesture. And then he started walking towards her. Every step was measured, slow, as if he was buying time to figure out what to say, as if he hadn't expected to see her there, as if her presence had thrown all his plans out the window. Hailey forced herself to stand still, the folder pressed against her chest like an inadequate shield. He stopped 6 feet away, too close to be casual, too far for what they both wanted. Hailey. His voice was husky, as if he hadn't used it much in the last few days. What are you doing here? Special delivery, she said, maintaining a professional tone. Jenkins sent me to bring the closing contracts. They need an urgent signature. His eyes swept over her face, searching for something. Anger, perhaps. Hurt. But Hailey had practiced that mask of indifference in the mirror long enough for it to be perfect. Jenkins sent you, he repeated, as if processing the information. Did he know I was here? I don't know. I didn't ask. She held out the folder. The contracts. Where do you want me to leave? Them. Scott didn't take the folder. He just kept looking at her, that familiar intensity returning to his gray-blue eyes. You're angry with me. I'm busy, she corrected. There's a difference. Hailey, the contracts, Scott. I have a 3-hour drive back ahead of me and a presentation to prepare for tomorrow. I don't have time for… She vaguely gestured between the two of them. Whatever this is. Something flashed in his eyes. Surprise, perhaps. He was used to her provoking, pursuing, insisting. Indifference was new territory. You have a presentation? For the board. Thursday, a proposal for customer service modernization. Jenkins approved it. A small, almost proud smile touched his lips. That's incredible, Hailey. You deserve it. I know I deserve it, she said without arrogance, just a statement of fact. Now the contracts. He finally took the folder, but instead of opening it, he continued to hold it, his fingers drumming nervously on the leather. You drove 3 hours to get here. Part of the job. At least let me offer you something to drink. Iced coffee, tea. We have a makeshift coffee station for the construction workers. You don't have to. Hailey, please. And now there was something vulnerable in his voice. 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. She should have said no, should have gotten in the car and left, leaving him with the contracts and the guilt. But something about the way he looked at her, as if she were water and he was dying of thirst, made her hesitate. 5 minutes, she agreed. Then I'm leaving. The coffee station was set up in a small room on the ground floor of the main building, equipped with a commercial refrigerator, microwave, and an espresso machine. Scott made 2 iced caramel coffees without asking how she liked hers. He remembered. Of course he remembered. They sat on opposite folding chairs, with a makeshift wooden table between them. Through the window, Hailey could see dark clouds gathering, the wind picking up, the storm approaching. So, Scott began, swirling the cup between his hands. Presentation for the board. Yes. About what specifically? She could have given a short answer, could have kept the information to a minimum, but it was stronger than her. When it came to work, Hailey couldn't help but get excited. Technology integration in customer service, personalized app for check-in, service requests, recommendations based on previous stay preferences, but maintaining the human touch that sets us apart. The numbers show we can increase satisfaction and reduce operational costs simultaneously. His eyes gleamed with what seemed like genuine admiration. Did you do all the research yourself? I spent the weekend working on it. The whole weekend? I needed a distraction, she said, and let the words hang between them, loaded with meaning. Scott lowered his eyes to the cup, clenching his jaw. Hailey, about Thursday. You don't need to explain. Yes, I do, he insisted, finally looking up. You deserve an explanation. I panicked at the way you make me feel. The intensity. How close I got to crossing that line and not being able to go back. So you ran. Yes, I ran. I came here. I spent the last 3 days working 12, 14 hours a day, trying to exhaust myself enough to stop thinking about you. It didn't work. Hailey took a sip of the iced coffee, letting the caffeine and caramel melt on her tongue before answering. Scott, I can't keep doing this. This back and forth. These admissions followed by running away. It's not fair to me. I know. You know, she repeated unemotionally. But it doesn't change anything, does it? Because tomorrow, or next week, it'll happen again. You'll look at me that way. You'll say things that make my heart race. You'll get too close. And then you'll panic and disappear again. I won't. How can you be sure? Because I don't want to run anymore, he said, and there was conviction in his voice now. Because I spent 3 days trying to forget you and only managed to want you more. Because everything you said on the balcony was right. I am a coward. I'm using Tyler as an excuse for my own fear, and I'm tired of being afraid. Her heart quickened, but Hailey forced herself to keep her voice level. Words are easy, Scott. I know. He stood up, walked around the table, and knelt in front of her chair. The position put them at a similar height, his eyes level with hers. That's why I'm going to show you. Show me how. Let me take you to dinner. Tomorrow night. After your presentation. A real dinner. No excuses, no running away. Scott, and I'm going to talk to Tyler, he continued, lightly resting his hands on her knees, the touch burning through the fabric of her trousers. This weekend, I'm going to sit down with him, and I'm going to be honest about how I feel about you, about what I want. Hailey studied his face, looking for signs of hesitation, of fear, of the inevitable retreat, but all she saw was determination. Are you really ready for this? No, he admitted with brutal honesty. I'm terrified. The thought of letting Tyler down makes me sick. The thought of not being good enough for you haunts me. But the thought of losing you, that scares me infinitely more. A distant thunder echoed, followed by the first patter of rain against the window. The storm had finally arrived. Hailey looked at his hands on her knees, so large compared to hers, so warm, so right, even when everything said it should be wrong. One chance, she said finally. You get one chance. But Scott, if you run again, we're done. I won't wait around for someone who can't choose. I won't run, he promised. Never again. And then, because he couldn't hold back anymore, because 3 days without seeing her had been torture, because she was standing there looking at him as if he were both her greatest frustration and her greatest desire, Scott leaned forward, slow, giving her time to back away, time to refuse. But Hailey didn't back away. She met him halfway. The kiss started soft, almost hesitant, lips meeting with a delicacy that contrasted with months of pent-up tension. It was a question, a promise, a surrender, but the softness lasted only seconds. Then everything he had suppressed, everything he had denied, everything he had fought against for so long, exploded between them like a storm. Scott's hands went up, one going to the nape of her neck, lacing his fingers through her hair, the other flattening on her back, pulling her to the edge of the chair, closer to him, always closer. Hailey held his face, feeling the roughness of his stubble against her palms, pulling him even deeper into the kiss. His mouth was hot, tasting of caramel and something darker, more intense, purely him. She felt him make that sound in the back of his throat, Half moan, half sigh. Absolute surrender. The kiss grew deeper, more urgent. His tongue teasing hers, exploring, discovering. His hands weren't still, tracing down her back, moving up her sides, memorizing every curve through the fabric of her blouse. Hailey let one hand slide down his, neck feeling his racing pulse, descending further to find the tense muscles of his shoulders beneath his shirt. She pulled him closer, eliminating any space that still existed. He rose from his kneeling position, bringing her with him, never breaking the kiss. She stood up too, and now, he was gently pressing her against the wall, his body solid and warm against hers. "Hailey," he whispered against her lips, as if needing to confirm she was real, that this was happening. "My God, Hailey, don't stop," she responded, pulling him back. "Don't you dare stop now." And he didn't stop. The kiss continued, turning into a silent conversation of months of repressed desire, of unreciprocated provocations, of glances across crowded rooms, of almost moments that were interrupted. His hands found the hem of her blouse, slipping underneath, touching the skin of her waist. She arched into him, a gasp escaping against his mouth as his fingers traced slow, almost reverent patterns. "You're so soft," he murmured, kissing along her jawline, descending to her neck. "So perfect. So—" A loud bang made them both freeze. It wasn't thunder. The coffee station door swung open forcefully. "Mr. Cooper, sorry to interrupt, but we have a problem with—" One of the engineers stopped abruptly in the doorway, his eyes wide as he took in the scene. Scott pulled away so fast that Hailey almost fell. He caught her by the arm, stabilizing her, but there was already 3 feet of distance between them. "What's wrong?" Scott asked, his voice surprisingly controlled considering he was gasping for air 30 seconds ago. Leak on the roof. North section. The rain is getting into the renovated rooms." Scott ran a hand through, his hair taking a deep breath, clearly trying to compose himself. "I'll be right there, 1 minute." The engineer nodded, casting a curious look at Hailey before disappearing. The silence that fell was different from all the previous ones. It wasn't charged with sexual tension. It wasn't heavy with unsaid things. It was satisfied, complete, as if a barrier had finally been broken. Scott turned to her, and for the first time in weeks, he was smiling, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "That was overdue," Hailey finished, running her fingers over her swollen lips. "It was very overdue. Yes, but was it worth the wait?" She studied him for a long moment, seeing the vulnerability there, the hope, the residual fear that perhaps she would say no. "It was worth it," she admitted. "But you still have to keep your promises, the dinner, the talk with Tyler." "I will keep them," he promised, taking a step toward her, stealing one more quick kiss. Soft, a sealed promise. "All of them. You need to go take care of the leak." "I know." But he didn't move immediately. He just kept looking at her as if memorizing that moment. "Drive safely. The storm is heavy. I always drive carefully. And Hailey?" He held her hand, intertwining their fingers. "Good luck with the presentation tomorrow. You're going to crush it." "Thank you." He smiled again, squeezing her hand before releasing it. "Let me know when you get home. Just so I know you made it safely." The simple, domestic, ordinary request made something melt in her chest. "Okay." She grabbed her purse, checked that the car keys were there, and put the signed documents in the leather folder so they wouldn't get wet. At the door, she turned to look at him one last time. Scott was standing in the same spot, hands in his pockets, his hair messy where she had run her fingers through it, his lips still red from the kiss, beautifully imperfect. "Scott?" "Yes?" "Don't run away." His eyes softened. "Never again. I promise." She nodded and stepped out into the storm. The rain was coming down hard now, soaking her in the few seconds it took to reach the car. But she didn't care. She barely registered the cold, the dampness, the wind. All she could think about was the kiss, his taste, the sound he made when she pulled his hair, the way his hands had trembled against her skin. She drove back down the Pacific Coast Highway with a huge smile on her face, her heart still racing, her body still warm where he had touched her. 3 hours later, when she finally got home, she sent the promised message. Arrived. Sane. In theory. The response came in seconds. In theory? Still feeling your lips. Technically, it's hard to drive like that. There was a pause. Then, You are dangerous to my sanity. Good. You deserve to pay a little for making me wait so long. Fair. Sleep well, Hailey. And tomorrow, crush that presentation afterward dinner, as promised. No running away? No running away. Never again. Hailey threw herself onto the bed, hugging her phone to her chest, that silly smile still on her face. Finally, after months of teasing, of resistance, of almost moments, and missed opportunities, finally Scott Cooper had stopped running. And that kiss? It was absolutely worth every second of the wait. The presentation on Thursday was an absolute triumph. Hailey walked into the conference room at 2 in the afternoon with the confidence of someone who had practiced every word, every transition, every possible answer to objections. The board of directors sat around the oval mahogany table, 7 seasoned faces who had built a resort empire from the ground up, and she won them over. 20 minutes turned into 40 when the questions began. They weren't skeptical questions, but curious, engaged, impressed ones. Jenkins smiled discreetly in the corner. One of the older directors nodded in approval when she explained the return on investment numbers. Proposal approved, the chairman of the board announced at the end. Pilot, implementation begins next quarter. Ms. Bryant, congratulations. This is the kind of innovative thinking that keeps our brand ahead. She floated out of that room. Kate was waiting in the hallway, having convinced Tyler to let her leave work early to be there. So, they approved. Everything. Hailey could barely contain her smile. They're implementing it next quarter. Kate, they approved it. Kate pulled her into a tight hug. I knew it. You're amazing. I need to call. Hailey stopped, her smile fading slightly. She was going to say Scott. Her first instinct was to call him, to share that victory, but they weren't there yet, were they? A kiss didn't mean a relationship, especially not with Scott Cooper. He's going to be proud, Kate said softly, reading her friend's thoughts. When you tell him. Yes, he will. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. Hailey picked it up, her heart quickening when she saw who had sent a message. Scott, how did it go? She smiled, texting back as she walked to the elevator. I crushed it. Unanimous approval. The response was immediate. I knew it. You are incredible. Ready for tonight? More. Then ready. Great. I'll pick you up at 7. Wear something comfortable. We're not going anywhere formal. Hailey chose an olive green midi dress, light and flowing, with flat sandals. Her hair was down in natural waves. Minimal makeup. Comfortable but still carefully chosen. Scott arrived punctually at 7, driving his own car instead of one of the company vehicles. A discreet black SUV that matched the version of him she was getting to know. Less polished. More real. You look beautiful, he said when she got into the car, leaning over to kiss her. Quick, soft, natural, as if they had done it 1,000 times before. You too, she replied, noticing the dark jeans and navy shirt with the sleeves rolled up. No tie, no formality, just Scott. He took her to a small restaurant on Balboa Island, the kind of place that had no valet parking or crystal. Chandeliers, worn wooden tables, soft candlelight, a menu handwritten on a blackboard. Intimate, personal. This is my favorite spot, he admitted as they sat at a corner table, away from the main flow. I come here when I need to think, when I want to be alone without really being alone. You brought me to your secret place. You're not just anyone. He held her hand across the table, his thumb tracing lazy circles over her knuckles. And I'm tired of hiding. They ordered fish tacos for her, a beef burrito for him, a strawberry smoothie to share because he remembered. She mentioned liking it months ago. The conversation flowed naturally. She recounted details of the presentation, imitating the older director's expression when she explained the technological integration. He laughed, that genuine laugh that made his eyes sparkle. You're going to go far. In this company, Scott said. Very far. In 5 years, I wouldn't be surprised if you were sitting on that board. That's the idea, she admitted. I don't want to be an assistant forever. I want to build something. You will. I know you will. After dinner, he didn't take her straight home. Instead, he drove to the beach, parking at an overlook that offered a view of the dark ocean. The waves were invisible in the darkness, but the sound of them breaking was constant, rhythmic, comforting. I talked to Tyler today, Scott said suddenly, still looking straight ahead. Hailey's heart leaped. You talked to him? Over the phone. I didn't have the courage to do it in person yet, but I called. I told him we needed to talk this weekend, about something important. And him? He asked if it was about work. I said it was personal. He was silent for a while. Then he said okay, he was free for lunch on Saturday. Hailey studied his profile, seeing the tension in his jaw. You're scared, terrified, he admitted. Tyler has been my best friend for 17 years. He trusts me, and I'm going to sit down with him and tell him that I want. He stopped, turning to face her. That I want you, for real, not hidden, not in secret. I want to be able to take you out to dinner without worrying if someone will see. I want to show up at your parents' Sunday dinner with you. I want everyone to know. Scott, let me finish. He held her face with both hands. I know I'm doing this backward, that I should have talked to him first before kissing you, but I couldn't wait any longer. I couldn't pretend anymore. And now I just need him to understand, to see that this is real, that it's not just attraction or impulsivity or a midlife crisis. Midlife crisis? She arched an eyebrow. You're 35, but you're 26. That's going to be one of his arguments, I guarantee it. Then you tell him I'm adult enough to make my own decisions. I'll say exactly that. He kissed her again, deeper this time, one hand sliding to the nape of her neck, fingers lacing through her hair. The kiss was long, slow, a promise of more things, but also a temporary farewell. I should take you home, he murmured against her lips when they finally separated. Before I do. Something we both want to happen, but that we should probably wait for. Always the gentleman, she teased, but she felt the same way. There was a right time for things, and this wasn't it yet. He drove her to the gate of her building in Costa Mesa, walking with her to the door, stealing. One more prolonged kiss before forcing himself to step back. Saturday, he said. I'll have lunch with Tyler. I'll call you afterward and tell you how it went. You won't run away. Never again. I promised, remember? She watched as he walked back to his car, waving before he got in. She watched the taillights disappear down the street, and she felt something light settle in her chest. Hope. Possibility. The start of something real. Friday passed at a normal pace. Work. Meetings about her proposal's implementation. Scott sent 3 texts during the day. Just small things. A photo of the mango smoothie he bought, remembering her. Thinking of you at 4 in the afternoon. Normal things, couple things, as if they had been that for ages. Hailey replied to each one, that small smile appearing every time her phone vibrated. Kate noticed. You're glowing, she commented when they met for lunch on Friday. Like literally radiant. That's an exaggeration. It's not. You're happy. Is he treating you well? He is, Hailey admitted. He's different. Present. He's not running away. He's talking to Tyler tomorrow. Wow. He's really serious about this. It looks like it. On Saturday, Hailey woke up to a text from Scott sent at 6 in the morning. Couldn't sleep well. I rehearsed what I'm going to say about 20 times. It still feels inadequate, but I'm going to do it. For us. I'll call you after lunch. She smiled, texting back. You'll be fine. Tyler loves you. He'll understand. I hope so, because losing you isn't an option. The day dragged on. Hailey tried to distract herself by cleaning her apartment, with a book she couldn't concentrate on, with a series she watched without really seeing. The phone remained silent. Noon passed. 1 o'clock. 2. 3. At 4, she couldn't take it anymore and sent a text. Everything okay? Nothing. At 5, she tried again. Scott, are you there? Silence. 6 in the evening. 7. 8. Her stomach was in knots. 1,000. Scenarios ran through her head. Tyler had reacted badly. He had exploded. He had ended the friendship. Scott was processing. He was angry. He was running away again. No, he had promised. He had promised he wouldn't run away anymore. But the night passed without a word. And then Sunday dawned. Dinner at her parents' house was at 6. Hailey arrived at 5:45, helping her mother in the kitchen, talking about the successful presentation, avoiding thinking about the phone that remained stubbornly silent in her pocket. Scott didn't come. He canceled. Again, Tyler announced when everyone sat down at the table. Text message, said he had something urgent in San Diego. The food turned to cement in Hailey's mouth. She swallowed with difficulty, forcing her expression to remain neutral. San Diego, she repeated, her voice coming out, more even than she expected. Again? Yeah, weird, because we had lunch yesterday. He was fine. A little nervous, but fine. We talked about expansion, about the resorts, about the quarters numbers. Did he mention anything else? Hailey asked before she could stop herself. Tyler looked at her, that wrinkle of suspicion appearing between his eyebrows. Like what? Nothing, forget it. But Tyler didn't forget. Later, when they were alone in the kitchen putting away leftovers, he leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. What's going on between you and Scott? Nothing. Hailey. Seriously, Tyler, nothing. You two are acting weird. He got nervous yesterday when I asked what he wanted to talk about. Said he had reconsidered and it wasn't important. And you've been checking your phone compulsively since you got here. Hailey closed the refrigerator harder than necessary. If there's something going on, Scott will have to be the one to tell you first. It's not me. So there is something. I didn't say that. Tyler sighed, running a hand through his hair in a gesture that painfully reminded her of Scott. Look, I'm not an idiot. I noticed how he looks at you, how you look at him. I just need to know if you're okay, if he's treating you right, because you're my sister, and he's my best friend. And if anything goes wrong, nothing is going to go wrong. She lied, because there's nothing going on. But there was, or at least there had been, for 48 wonderful hours where Scott Cooper had finally stopped running, and now he was doing exactly what he promised he wouldn't do. Hailey got home at 9 in the evening, the phone still silent, her chest tight in a way she refused to categorize as pain. She wouldn't give him that power. Not again. She checked her texts. Nothing. Missed calls. 0. She stared at the screen for a long moment. Then she typed, I understand if you panicked, if Tyler said something that changed things, but you owe me at least an explanation. You owe me enough respect not to simply disappear. She sent it before she could second-guess herself. The answer never came. Monday passed in a haze. Hailey went to work, smiled at colleagues, attended meetings, took notes on implementation. The 12th floor office remained empty, the door closed and the lights off, as if he had never existed. Tuesday was worse, because it was delivery day, the day she used to show up with cold drinks, the day that had started everything. She walked past the 12th floor. She didn't stop. She didn't look at the door. She didn't let the memory of all those mornings reach her. She just kept walking. Wednesday, she arrived at work and found flowers on her desk. White lilies. Her favorite, though she had never told him that. The card only said, Sorry, please understand. Hailey took the flowers and put them in the women's restroom with a note, free for anyone who wants them. On Thursday, Jenkins called her into his office. Are you all right? You seem distracted. I'm great. Automatic lie. Just tired. The project implementation is a lot of work. If you need a few days off, I don't, she said firmly. Work does me good, keeps me focused. And it was true. Work was the only thing that made sense. Numbers didn't lie. Projects didn't run away. Professional success didn't kiss you like you were air and then disappear without explanation. The nights were different. The nights were when the empty apartment echoed too loudly, when the silence of the phone seemed to have a sound, when memories of kisses in makeshift coffee stations and whispered promises in parked cars came rushing back. She allowed herself exactly 5 minutes. She would sit on the bathroom floor, hug her knees to her chest and let the anger and pain wash over her like a wave. But no tears. She refused to cry for a man who didn't have the courage to choose. After the 5 minutes, she got up, washed her face, went back to the living room, opened her laptop, worked until her body couldn't stay awake anymore. Friday marked a full week of silence. Hailey was in a meeting when her phone vibrated. She looked. Scott. Her heart jumped. Then it sank. She ignored the call. He tried again. She ignored it again. A text message popped up. Please answer, I can explain. She turned off her phone. Kate showed up at her apartment on Friday night unannounced, with a bag of Thai food and determination in her eyes. Tyler told me Scott canceled Sunday dinner, again, and you look terrible, so let's talk. There's nothing to talk about. Hailey. He ran, Kate. Again. Exactly as I knew he would run, after promises, after making me believe that this time would be different, after kisses and dinners and plans to talk to Tyler. She let out a humorless laugh. And you know what's worse? I'm still checking my phone, as if he's finally going to have the decency to explain. He tried to call today. I know, I ignored it. Good, Kate said with approval. You don't owe him anything, especially not after he put you through this again. I knew, Hailey said, her voice dropping. I knew he would do this. All the signs were there, but I wanted to believe. I wanted to believe he was different, that I was different, that what we had between us was strong enough to overcome his fear. It's not about you, Kate said firmly. It's about him, about his cowardice, about him not being ready. And you can't make someone ready, Hailey, no matter how much you want to. I know. So what are you going to do? Hailey looked at the phone on the coffee table. Scott had called 3 more times since she got home, sent 2 additional texts that she hadn't opened. I'm going to move on, she said finally. I'm going to focus on work, on my goals, on building the career I want, and I'm going to stop waiting for someone who clearly can't show up. What if he shows up? Eventually? Then he'll have to prove he's changed. For real, not with words, with actions. And until then, she picked up her phone and put it on silent mode. Until then, Scott Cooper doesn't exist to me. The 2nd week passed, then 3, then 4. The 12th floor office remained empty. Rumors circulated that Scott was personally overseeing the opening of a new resort in Portland, that he would be away for an indefinite period. Convenient. Hailey threw herself into work with an intensity that impressed even Jenkins. She stayed late. She arrived early. She volunteered for extra projects. The implementation of her proposal was going better than expected, and she documented every victory, every positive number, every satisfied customer feedback, building something, proving something, to herself more than to anyone else. Tyler pulled her aside after Sunday dinner in the 4th week. Scott won't be at the company's 15-year anniversary. Gala next month, he said. He texted saying he has a schedule conflict. Too bad. Hailey, what happened between you two? Because clearly something happened. He's avoiding the family. You're avoiding any conversation about him. And I'm stuck in the middle trying to figure it out. She looked at her brother, seeing the genuine concern in his eyes. Ask him, she said simply. If he's man enough to finally tell you the truth, then you'll understand. But don't hold your breath, because honesty doesn't seem to be his strong suit lately. Tyler looked like he wanted to press the issue, but Kate appeared, gently touching his arm. Leave her alone, honey. If there's something to tell, they'll tell you in their own time. Hailey shot a grateful look at Kate as Tyler walked away. On Wednesday of the 5th week, Hailey was leaving a meeting when she saw a familiar figure at the end of the hallway. Even from behind, she would recognize those broad shoulders, that posture, that slightly messy dark hair. Scott was there in the building talking to Jenkins. Her heart did that stupid thing of accelerating before her brain could order it to stop. But she didn't approach. She didn't change direction to pass by them. Instead, she turned down the side corridor, taking the longer route back to her office. Cowardly, perhaps, but she had promised herself. Until he truly showed up, with real explanations, truly ready to choose, she wasn't going to make it easy. 10 minutes later, her phone rang. Scott. She let it go to voicemail. A text message popped up. I know you're avoiding me. I deserve it. But please, Hailey, I need to talk to you. I need to explain. She typed back. You had 5 weeks to explain. 5 weeks? Where I existed. Where I waited. Where I cared. Now you don't have the right to demand anything from me. The response came fast. I'm not demanding. I'm begging. 30 minutes. Just give me 30 minutes of your time. Afterward, if you want me to disappear, I'll disappear. Hailey stared at the message for a long time. Part of her wanted to say yes, wanted to hear the explanation, the apologies, the reasons. But the bigger part, the part that had spent a month rebuilding herself, strengthening herself, learning to live without his validation, knew better. No, she typed. You don't deserve my 30 minutes. You don't deserve anything from me. Not after doing exactly what you promised you wouldn't do. Another text. Hailey, please. She blocked the number. Then she turned off her phone completely, put it in her desk drawer, and returned to work. Because Hailey Bryant was worth more than crumbs of attention when it was convenient, worth more than broken promises and empty excuses, worth more than being the second option for a man who couldn't choose. And if Scott Cooper couldn't see that, then he didn't deserve to have her. Not one bit, not ever. Tyler showed up at Hailey's apartment on a Friday night unannounced, with 2 bottles of iced tea and that expression she had known since childhood. The same one he wore when he had found out she skipped class at age 15, when he knew something was wrong and wouldn't leave without answers. "Open the door, Hailey. I know you're in there." She sighed, bookmarking the page of the report she was reviewing, and went to the door. Tyler was in the hallway wearing worn jeans and a Lakers t-shirt, his hair messy as if he had run his hands through it, multiple times. "Hi," she said emotionlessly. No hi about it. He walked in without waiting for an invitation, placing the drinks on the coffee table. "Sit down, we need to talk." "Tyler, I'm tired." "Sit down," he repeated, and there was something in his tone that made her obey. Hailey sat on the edge of the sofa, hugging a cushion to her chest like an inadequate shield. Tyler settled into the armchair opposite, resting his elbows on his knees, his penetrating gaze fixed on her. "Scott came to see me today," he said bluntly. Her stomach plummeted. She didn't let show. "Okay." "He showed up at the office, said he needed to talk to me, that he had tried a month ago but didn't have the courage, and that he couldn't keep lying anymore." Hailey maintained a neutral expression, but her heart was beating too fast. "And then he told me everything," Tyler continued, watching every micro-expression on his sister's face. "About the cold drinks every Tuesday and Thursday, about the dance at the gala, about the balcony, about the resort in Laguna Beach." He paused, clenching his jaw. "About the kiss." Hailey swallowed hard but didn't. "Look away. And I want to hear it from your mouth. Not his version, yours. What's going on between you two?" "Nothing is going on," she said, and technically it wasn't a lie. Not anymore. But there was. "For approximately 48 hours, Hailey confirmed, her voice coming out more bitter than she intended. "Between the kiss and him disappearing without explanation for an entire month. So technically, Tyler, you don't have to worry. Scott made it clear that no matter what he feels, it's not strong enough for him to act on it." Tyler leaned back, running his hands over his face. "He told me he ran away, that he was so afraid of my reaction that he made up an excuse and vanished to Portland. Said it's the biggest mistake he's ever made. Good thing he realized," she said without emotion. A month later. "Hailey." "No, Tyler." She stood up, letting the cushion fall to the floor. "Don't ask me to pity him. Don't ask me to understand. Because I understood the first time he ran away, and the second, but when he looked me in the eyes, kissed me like I was the most important thing in the world, promised he would talk to you, promised he wouldn't run away again, and then did exactly that." She shook her head. "That I don't understand, and I won't pretend to understand just because he finally had the courage to tell you the truth." Tyler was silent for a long moment, just watching as she paced the room. "You, like him, liked," she corrected, past tense, "because I can't keep liking someone who can't choose, who lets fear dictate every decision, who makes me believe that this time will be different and then," she gestured vaguely, "disappears. He's devastated, Hailey. When we talked today, he seemed broken. Said he tried to call you, text you, that you blocked him. And what did you expect, that I would sit around waiting for him to decide he was ready, that I would be convenient when it was convenient for him? No." Tyler stood up too, walking toward her. "I expect you to do what's best for you, always, but I also think you deserve to know what he told me, why he ran." "I don't want to know. You need to hear it," Tyler insisted. "Because I know you, little sister. I know that look. You're convincing yourself you don't care anymore, but you, and you'll keep wondering. So let me spare you the torment." Hailey crossed her arms, her posture defensive, but she didn't interrupt him. "He said that when we talked that Saturday at lunch, he was about to tell me. He had rehearsed it. He had prepared himself. But when we sat down, when I started talking about business, about expansion, about how well you were doing at the company," Tyler paused, choosing his words, "I mentioned how proud I was of you, how I had spent years protecting you, making sure men didn't take advantage of you, that you had space to grow. Without pressure, Hailey felt something cold in her chest. And then he realized, Tyler continued, that telling me meant admitting he was exactly the type of guy I had always tried to keep away from you. Older, technically your boss, someone you admired professionally. He panicked. Said all he could think about was that I would see him as a predator, as someone taking advantage of his best friend's sister. So he ran away to prove you were right? He ran away because he's an idiot, Tyler said bluntly. Because he's so afraid of disappointing me, of hurting you, of ruining everything that he ended up doing exactly what he was afraid of doing. And you? How do you feel, knowing your best friend was interested in your sister? Tyler let out a long sigh, returning to the armchair. Honestly, I already knew. Hailey blinked. What? I'm not blind, Hailey. I noticed how he looked at you, how you looked at him. I saw that dance at the gala. I saw how you two practically disappeared afterward. Kate warned me months ago that there was something there. He shrugged. I was just waiting for one of you to have the courage to tell me. And you're okay with it? Okay is too strong a word, Tyler admitted. Comfortable would be a lie, because you're my sister and he's my best friend, and the idea of you two together is weird. But you know what's weirder? Seeing you both miserable, pretending you don't. Avoiding each other. You working yourself to exhaustion to distract yourself. Him volunteering to stay in Portland because he can't be in the same city as you. Look, I'm not going to pretend it's easy for me. Seeing you two together is going to take time for me to get used to. But, you know what I told him today? I told him I'd rather see you two happy together than unhappy apart. That I want you to be happy. And if Scott makes you happy, he doesn't make me happy, Hailey interrupted. He makes me confused, frustrated, angry, and I can't live like that. I can't keep waiting for someone who might run away again at any moment. What if he doesn't run? But he will. It's what he does. Tyler was silent, studying his sister's face. You're scared? He said finally, just as much as he is. I'm not. You are. You're scared of giving him another chance and him hurting you again. You're scared of believing he's changed. You're protecting yourself. He stood up, walking over to her. And I understand, completely. But Hailey, I've known Scott long enough, and I have never, ever seen him the way he was today. Desperate, broken, begging for a chance to fix things. He had a month to fix it. He had a month hating himself for messing it up. Hailey looked at her brother, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. You're on his side? Seriously? I'm on your side, Tyler corrected. Always. But I also know both of you. Well enough to know that what you have is real. It's scary and complicated and inconvenient, but it's real. And real things are worth fighting for. I don't know if I have the energy to fight anymore. Then don't fight. He held her shoulders gently. Just consider hearing what he has to say, really. Not half-heartedly. Hear everything. And then decide. Because I think you'll regret it if you don't give him at least this one more chance. He might hurt me again. He might. But he might also surprise you. People grow, they learn, they change, and sometimes they need to completely screw up to realize what truly matters. Hailey sighed, sitting back down on the sofa. When did you get so wise? Kate. She makes me watch too many relationship shows. He sat down next to her, putting his arm around her shoulders. Look, if you decide he's not worth it, that you don't want anything more to do with him, I'll support you. 100%, and I'll still be his friend, but he'll know exactly what I think of him for messing things up with you. And if I decide to give him another chance, then I'll support that too, and I'll have a very clear conversation with him about respecting you, treating you right, not disappearing again. Basically, I'll give him the protective brother speech that I am. Hailey rested her head on his shoulder, feeling a little of the weight lift off her. I don't know what to do, Tyler. You don't have to decide now, just think about it. And when you're ready, whatever the decision, I'll be here. They sat in silence for a few minutes. Then Tyler spoke again. He said he's coming back on Monday, that he's staying in Newport. He finished what he needed to do in Portland. Said he's not running anymore, even if you decide never to speak to him again. How convenient that he finally decides that now. Sometimes people have to lose something to understand its value. I'm not defending him. Just explaining. Hailey didn't respond. She just stayed there, processing everything Tyler had said, everything she was feeling, everything she didn't know how to deal with. After Tyler left an hour later, leaving the iced tea bottles on the table with instructions for her to eat something decent and stop working late every night, Hailey picked up her phone. She unblocked Scott's number. There were 17 unread messages. She opened the conversation, quickly scanning through them. The first ones were apologies. "I'm sorry. I know I messed up. Please give me a chance to explain." Then they became more desperate. "Hailey, please. Just answer me, even if it's to tell me to go away." The most recent ones were different, calmer, more resigned. "I understand if you don't want to talk to me. I deserve it. But I want you to know that I spoke to Tyler today. I told him everything. He knows. And he was incredible. More understanding than I deserved. But that doesn't matter if I don't have you." The last message had been sent 3 hours ago. "I'm coming back on Monday. To stay. I'm not running away anymore. But I also won't pressure you. You said I don't deserve your 30 minutes. You're right. But if you ever change your mind, if you ever want to listen, I'll be here waiting for as long as you need." Hailey looked at the messages for a long time. Part of her wanted to answer, wanted to say that Tyler had explained, that she understood why he ran, even if she didn't agree. That maybe she was willing to listen. But the bigger part, the part that had spent a month rebuilding herself, learning to function without his validation, knew that replying now would be too easy, too fast. If Scott was serious, if he had truly changed, then he could wait. He could prove with actions, not words, that this time was different. So she closed the messages without replying. She put the phone aside and went back to the report she was reviewing, because Hailey Bryant was not the kind of woman who ran back at the first sign of remorse. Not after everything. Scott Cooper would have to work hard to win her back, and she was curious to see if he was willing to do the work. Monday arrived with a clear sky and pleasant temperature. Hailey walked into the office at 8 in the morning as usual, vanilla iced coffee in hand, leather folder under her arm. She went up the elevator, got out on her floor, and walked down the familiar hallway, and stopped, because at the door of her cubicle there was a box, not large but carefully wrapped in craft paper, with a card attached with washi tape. She looked around. No one in the hallway. 7:50 in the morning. Too early for most colleagues. She picked up the box, opened the card. The handwriting was unmistakable. Masculine, slightly slanted. "You once said you memorize things. I memorize things too. Like how you twist your hair when you're thinking. How you bite your lip when you're concentrating. How your smile changes when it's genuine versus polite. Little things, all important, all yours. This is one of them. No pressure, no expectations. Just a reminder that I pay attention too." Hailey opened the box. Inside was a book. Simple cover. Discreet. Almost austere. The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. It took her a few seconds to understand why it touched her so much. Then she remembered the conversation in the elevator. Hailey had said that noisy stories tired her, that she preferred those that broke her inside. Slowly. Scott was there, leaning against the mirror, silent, observing. On the first page, his firm handwriting, "For when you realize that some lives are lost not from lack of courage, but from an excess of duty." Something stirred in her chest, small, reluctant, but undeniable. She put the book in her desk drawer. She wasn't going to respond. Not yet, but she wasn't going to return it either. Tuesday, 10:15 in the morning. Hailey was in a meeting when she noticed a familiar figure through the glass wall, passing through the hallway, not on the 12th floor, on hers. Scott was there on her floor, talking to Jenkins near the break room. He was wearing a gray suit, impeccable as always, but he looked different, thinner perhaps, or just more tired. He didn't look in her direction, didn't try to get her attention. He just talked to Jenkins for 5 minutes, nodded, and left. But in the break room, when Hailey walked by after the meeting, there was a mango and passion fruit smoothie waiting, her favorite, with a note attached. No demands, no ulterior motives, just thought you might like it. She took the smoothie, took a sip. Perfect, the right amount of coldness. She put the note in her pocket. Wednesday, there were no deliveries. Thursday was the opposite. Flowers on her car in the parking lot when she left work at 6. Not roses, not lilies, gardenias, the same as the perfume she wore. The card said, I know you said I don't deserve your 30 minutes. You're right, but if you ever change your mind, I'll be here. Not running away, not disappearing, just here. On Friday, she arrived at work and found an envelope on her desk. Inside were 2 tickets for a jazz show on Saturday night. An artist she had mentioned months ago that she wanted to see. The note said, "Take Kate, take whoever you want, or don't use them. No pressure. I just thought you would enjoy going to this show." Hailey stared at the tickets for a long time. Then she picked up her phone. She typed, "Stop spending money on me." The response came in minutes. "It's not about money, it's about paying attention. It's about showing that I remember, that I care, that I was paying attention this whole time, even when I was too afraid to act." She looked at the message, then at the tickets, then at the book in the drawer, at the smoothie note in her pocket, and she typed back, "I'm going to the show." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "I hope you have fun, really. Aren't you going to ask who I'm taking?" "No, because I'm not doing this to gain something. I'm doing it because you deserve good things, regardless of me." Hailey looked at the message for a long moment. Then she typed, "Monday, my lunch break is 1 o'clock. Meet me at the cafe on Balboa Island, that small place near the water. Are you sure? 30 minutes, as you asked. You talk, I listen. Then I decide if it's worth more than that. I'll be there. No running away. No running away. Never again. I promise." Hailey put down her phone, and her heart was racing, her head telling her not to get her hopes up. But something small, stubborn, hopeful was growing in her chest, because Scott Cooper was doing exactly what she had asked. He was proving it with actions, and Monday would tell if those actions were enough. The cafe on Balboa Island was exactly as Hailey remembered. Small, cozy, worn wooden tables scattered randomly, a view of the water, through dusty windows. The kind of place tourists never found, but locals loved. She arrived at 12:57, 3 minutes before the agreed time. Deliberate. She wanted to be sitting when he arrived. She wanted to be in control of the situation from the start. She chose a corner, table with her back to the wall, facing the door. She ordered a peach iced tea and waited. Scott arrived at 12:59. He paused at the door, his eyes sweeping the small cafe until they found her. Even from a distance, she saw him take a deep breath, straightening his shoulders, as if gathering courage. He was wearing dark jeans and a light blue shirt with the sleeves rolled up. None of the executive suit, just him. And he looked tired, deep circles under his eyes, his face slightly thinner, as if he hadn't slept well in weeks. Good. He walked to the table, stopping a meter away. "Hailey." "Scott." She gestured to the opposite chair. "Sit." He sat down, automatically running his hands through his hair before forcing himself to stop. He was nervous. She had never seen him nervous before, not even in the most important meetings. "Thank you for agreeing to meet me," he began. "I didn't think you would." 30 minutes, she interrupted him, ostentatiously looking at her watch. "The clock is running, so talk." He nodded, swallowing hard. "I messed up, in a way I don't know if I can fix, but I have to try. I need you to understand what happened, not as an excuse because there is no excuse, just as an explanation." Hailey said nothing. She just took a sip of her tea, waiting. "When you left that resort in Laguna Beach after the kiss, I was on cloud 9. For the first time in months, I wasn't fighting what I felt. I was just feeling, and it was amazing and terrifying because I knew I had to do it right. I had to talk to Tyler." He paused as the waitress brought a mixed berry smoothie he had ordered on the way in. He thanked her without taking his eyes off Hailey. "I spent Friday rehearsing what I was going to say. Saturday morning I was ready, or I thought I was. I set up lunch with him. I arrived at the restaurant determined to be honest. And then, you panicked." "Yes," he admitted without hesitation, "but not in the way you think. It wasn't just fear of his reaction. It was what he said about you." Hailey raised an eyebrow, waiting for him to continue. "He was talking about work, about the resorts, about how proud he was of how you were growing in the company. And then he made a casual comment about how he always made sure to keep guys away from you, how he was always protective because he knew men could take advantage, older men especially, men in positions of power. Scott ran a hand over his face, the gesture revealing exhaustion, and I realized that I was exactly what he was describing. 10 years older, technically your superior, someone you admired professionally. I was literally the stereotype of the guy he spent years trying to keep away from you. So you ran away to prove him right? I ran away because I panicked, he said. Because all I could think was that if I told him the truth at that moment, Tyler would see me differently. He would question if I was taking advantage of you. He would wonder if what I felt was real, or if I was just another jerk using power and proximity. And in the process of protecting your friendship, you hurt me. Yes, and that's unforgivable. I know that. Hailey took another sip of tea, processing. You had a month, Scott. An entire month where you could have called, explained. Even if you were afraid of Tyler, you could have been honest with me. I know. But you didn't. You vanished. Went to Portland. Left. We here not knowing what the hell had happened. Not knowing if I had done something wrong. If the kiss had been a mistake for you. It was never a mistake, he said vehemently. That kiss was the most right thing I've ever done. And I knew it. That's why I ran. Because if I stayed, if I saw you, I would want to do it again. And again. And I wouldn't be able to do that without sorting things out with Tyler first. So you chose his friendship over me. I chose fear over everything, he corrected. Fear of disappointing him. Fear of not being good enough for you. Fear or that what I felt was too intense, too fast, too terrifying. So I ran. And in Portland, I convinced myself that I was doing the right thing, that I was protecting you from myself, that you deserved more than someone so damn confused. Hailey studied him, seeing the raw honesty on his face. And now? What's changed? Nothing, and everything. He leaned forward, placing his hands on the table, close but not touching hers. What I feel hasn't changed. The fears haven't changed. The difference is, I realize that running doesn't protect anyone. It just hurts. You, Tyler, me. And I was tired of being a coward. Tired of letting fear dictate my life. So you talked to Tyler. Last Friday, I flew back from Portland, went straight to his office, and told him everything, every detail. The cold drinks, the teasing, the dance, the kiss, everything. And him? He said he wasn't an idiot. That he had known for months that there was something between us, that he was waiting for one of us to be brave enough to tell him. Scott let out a humorless laugh. And then he punched me. Not hard, but enough to make his point. Said it was for hurting you. For disappearing without explanation. Despite everything, Hailey felt a small smile threaten to appear. Good. Then he said that if I really cared about you, if this was real, then he would support it. But if I ran again, if I hurt you again, he would personally guarantee that I would regret it. Excellent. Scott finally smiled, small but genuine. You have an amazing brother. I know. Silence fell between them. Not uncomfortable, just heavy with everything that needed to be said. Hailey, he started again, his voice softer now. I don't expect you to forgive. Not immediately, maybe never. But I need you to know that this month without you was the worst of my life. Not because I was lonely, but because I knew it was my fault, that I had the most incredible thing, and let it slip away out of pure fear. What if I give you another chance and you run again? I won't. You said that before. I know, and I broke that promise, but Hailey, he finally took her hand delicately, giving her time to pull away if she wanted to. She didn't pull away. I learned the hard way that running doesn't solve anything. It just makes it worse. And I won't do that again, because losing you once almost destroyed me. I won't risk losing you again. Hailey looked at his hand over hers. Large, warm, familiar. I spent a month convincing myself I was fine without you, she said, her voice coming out more vulnerable than she intended. Convincing myself I could move on, focus on work, build my career, be happy alone. And you can, he said immediately. You're incredible. Regardless of me, regardless of anyone. But the problem is I don't want to, she admitted, finally meeting his eyes. I don't want to. Move on. I don't want to forget. I don't want to pretend that kiss meant nothing because it did. And that makes me angry. Because it would be so much easier if I simply didn't care anymore. But you do care. Unfortunately. A small smile touched his lips. Unfortunately? Yes, because you made me furious. You hurt me. You made me question everything. And yet, when you started showing up with books and flowers and smoothies, when you started proving it with actions instead of words, She paused, taking a deep breath. I wanted to believe you had changed. I wanted to give you that chance. And now I need to know, for real, is this real for you? Not the idea of me, not the fantasy, the reality. With all the complications, with Tyler in the middle, with people at the company talking, with the age difference, with everything. It's the most real thing that's ever happened to me, he said without hesitation. And I know it sounds like a cliché. I know words are easy, but Hailey, I've never felt this before. This certainty, this, I want to wake up thinking about her and fall asleep with her on my mind. This, I can't. Imagine a future where she's not in it. It's scary, it's intense, but it's real. Hailey took a deep breath, making the decision she knew had been coming since she agreed to meet him. One chance, she said. Real. Not a test, not provisional. Either we do this right or we don't do it at all. Right, I promise. And if you get scared again, if you get too afraid, you talk to me. You don't disappear. You don't run away. You stay, and we figure it out together. I'll stay. Always. Hailey studied his face for another moment, seeing the sincerity, the hope, the residual, fear that she might still say no. Okay, he blinked. Okay, we try. For real. But Scott, if you hurt me again, there won't be a third chance. Do you understand? I understand. Completely. She squeezed his hand, feeling something click into place in her chest. Not entirely. There was still caution. There was still fear. But there was also hope. How long do we have until you need to go back to the office? He asked. She looked at her watch. 20 minutes still. Come with me. Where? To my apartment. It's 5 minutes from here. I need to show you something. She hesitated for just a second, then nodded. His apartment was in a building overlooking the bay. Hailey had been there before for birthday parties, casual dinners, but never like this. Never alone with him. Never after everything that had happened. Scott opened the door, letting her go in first. The space looked different, more cluttered. Boxes piled in the corner, papers scattered on the coffee table, as if he had just moved in, or was in the process of doing something. Sorry for the mess, he said, gesturing vaguely. I only got back from Portland yesterday. I'm still getting organized. What did you want to show me? He walked to the table, picking up a leather folder. He walked back to her, holding it out. Open it. Hailey opened it. Inside were documents, contracts, official forms. She leafed through them, confused at first. Then she understood. You're stepping down? From direct management of the flagship resort, he confirmed. I'll be overseeing the other resorts, traveling more, but I won't be in the same building as you every day. I won't technically be in a direct superior position over you. Why? Because Tyler had a point about power dynamics, about how it could complicate things. And I want you to never have to question if what we have is genuine or if there's anything professional mixed in. He held her face with both hands. I want it to be clean, real, without unnecessary complications. You're changing your career for me? I'm changing my career for us, because you're worth more than any position, any title, anything. Hailey felt something melt in her chest. The last resistance, the final wall. You're an idiot, she said, but she was smiling. A complete idiot who took too long to realize the obvious. I know, but am I your idiot now? Unfortunately for me, yes. And then she kissed him. It wasn't like the kiss at the resort. It didn't have the urgency, the hunger of months of repression. It was softer, slower. A promise instead of an explosion. But as his arms wrapped around her, pulling her closer to him, as her hand went to his hair, as the kiss gradually deepened, she felt everything come back. That connection, that intensity, that certainty that despite everything, this felt right. They only separated enough to breathe. I missed you, he whispered, so much every damn day. Good, because you deserve to suffer a little. He laughed against her lips. Yeah, I did. But I missed you too, she admitted. Even when I was angry. Even when I was convincing myself I was over it. I missed you. I won't give you a reason to miss me again. You better not. He kissed her again, deeper this time, and Hailey allowed herself to simply feel. Feel his arms around her. Feel the warmth. Feel the security of finally being where she wanted to be. When her phone alarm went off 15 minutes later, warning her that she needed to get back to the office, neither of them wanted to pull apart. I have to go, she murmured against his neck. I know. But dinner tonight? For real? Not hidden? Anywhere you want. And Hailey? I'll pick you up at the office. In front of everyone. Because I'm not hiding anymore. She smiled, stealing one more quick kiss. 7 o'clock. Pick me up at the office. I'll be there. When Hailey got back to the office 20 minutes later, slightly late, with her lips still red and a huge smile on her face, Kate intercepted her immediately. You're glowing again. Shut up. Did you two work it out? We're trying. Kate pulled her into a tight hug. About time. I was about to convince Tyler to lock you both in a room until you resolved it. It wouldn't have been the worst idea. At 7, sharp, Scott showed up on her floor. He didn't try to be discreet. He walked straight to her desk where she was closing her laptop and held out his hand. Ready? She took his hand, letting him help her stand up. Ready. And as they walked down the hallway, hands intertwined, Hailey noticed the glances, the whispered conversations, the surprise on her colleagues' faces. But she didn't care, because for the first time Scott wasn't running, and neither was she. The dinner was at a small Italian restaurant in Corona del Mar, the kind of place with flickering candles in, empty wine bottles and soft guitar music floating through the air. Scott reserved a table, private without being hidden, and spent the next 2 hours making Hailey laugh with college stories that Tyler never told. Wait, are you saying my brother spent an entire semester pretending to be a vegetarian just to impress a girl? 3 months eating salad and tofu while dreaming of hamburgers. And in the end, she wasn't even a vegetarian. She was just allergic to shellfish. Hailey laughed so loud that people at other tables looked over. She didn't care. The conversation flowed naturally. Work, family, plans for the future. He talked about the change in the company's structure, how he would take over the northern resorts, overseeing San Francisco and Portland. She talked about the proposal implementation, how the numbers were exceeding expectations. And between the stories and the plans, there were the moments, the comfortable silences, the hands intertwined across the table, the glances that lasted a second too long. When the bill came and he insisted on paying, she didn't argue. She just stole a piece of his tiramisu when he wasn't, looking, smiling when he feigned indignation. Thief. You love it. Yes, he said simply, the word lingering between them. I do love it. It wasn't a declaration. Not yet. But the promise was there. They left the restaurant at 9:30. The night was cool. The breeze from the ocean carried the smell of salt. Scott stopped beside the car, but didn't open the door immediately. I don't want this night to end, he admitted. Then don't let it. He studied her for a long moment, that familiar intensity returning to his eyes. Come with me, to my apartment. Not because I expect anything, just because I want more time with you. Talking, being together, anything as long as it's with you. Hailey knew what he was really asking, and she knew her answer. Okay. Take me home. Yours. The apartment was silent when they walked in, only the soft city, light filtering through the large windows. Scott turned on a few lamps, creating an intimate atmosphere without being obvious. Do you want something to drink? I have iced tea, juice, wine, whiskey. Scott. He turned around, finding her standing in the middle of the room, her eyes fixed on him. Yes? You're nervous. Completely. Why? He walked up to her, stopping just inches away. Because this matters. You matter. And I don't want to mess it up again. Hailey held his face with both hands, forcing him to look directly into her eyes. You won't mess it up. Not if you stop overthinking and just stay here, with me, present. And then she kissed him. The kiss started soft, almost hesitant, but quickly deepened. Months of tension, weeks of separation, days of rebuilding, all culminating in that moment. His hands found her waist, pulling her closer. Hers went up to his hair, lacing her fingers in the dark strands. The The kiss became more urgent, more necessary, more inevitable. "Hailey," he whispered against her lips. "Are you sure?" "Absolutely." He swept her up in a fluid motion, and she wrapped her legs around his waist, never breaking the kiss. He carried her down the hallway into the bedroom, gently setting her down on the king-size bed. For a moment, they just looked at each other, really looked, seeing not just attraction, but something deeper: connection, trust, future. "I've been waiting for this for so long," he admitted, kneeling at the edge of the bed, tracing gentle lines on her arms. "So long imagining, wanting, denying. You don't have to deny it anymore." "No, I don't." He leaned over her and kissed her again, slower this time, as if he wanted to savor the moment. His touch was attentive, almost careful, like someone learning a new path without haste. "You are beautiful," he murmured, his forehead resting against hers. "Just the way you are. I'm not perfect. You are to me." Between soft kisses and almost whispered words, the distance between them disappeared. There was no urgency, no excess, just the feeling of choosing to be there, present, vulnerable to each other, letting the intimacy reveal itself at the right pace. When they finally stopped resisting, it was with an almost solemn slowness, as if they both knew that instant would change something between them. His eyes remained on hers, steady, attentive, sustaining a closeness that didn't need gestures to be felt. "Look at me," he requested softly when she closed her eyes, overcome by the emotion of the moment. "I want to be here with you." And she looked. She saw there not only desire, but admiration, and intense care. Something too deep to be explained, too dangerous to be named yet. They remained like that for long seconds, breathing in sync, hands intertwined, anchored in each other as if the world had shrunk to the size of that space. In that moment, there was no rush, no excess, just the silent certainty of choosing each other. "You don't know," he whispered against her lips, "what you do to me, how you make me feel complete." "Show me," she challenged. "Show me instead of telling me." And he showed her. With every movement, every kiss, every whisper of her name like a prayer, he showed her that she was important, that she was desired, that she was chosen. When they both finally broke apart, it was together. Names whispered like promises in the dark, bodies so completely intertwined that it was impossible to tell where one ended and the other began. Afterward, lying side by side, breath still uneven, Scott pulled her close, snuggling her against his chest. "Stay," he said, "all night. Wake up with me. I wasn't going anywhere." He kissed the top of her head, tracing lazy patterns on her back. "This last month," he began, his voice sleepy, "I convinced myself that if you gave me another chance, I would do things differently. I would do it right. I would show you how much you mean to me. And you showed me. Was it enough?" Hailey raised her head, meeting his eyes in the dark. "It was more than enough. You showed up for real. You didn't run when it got hard. You talked to Tyler. You changed your work structure. You proved it with actions. I'll keep proving it. Every day." "I know," she said simply, and she believed him. They stayed, awake for another hour, whispering about plans for the weekend, how to tell her parents. "I don't want to hide anymore. I want everyone to know you're mine." Possessive. "When it comes to you? Completely." She smiled against his chest, her eyes finally giving in to exhaustion. "Good night, Scott." "Good night, Princess." The word hung in the air. Princess. He hadn't said the 3 full words, but it was close. So close. And for the first time in weeks, Hailey slept without a weight in her chest, without worry in her mind. Just peace. And the certainty that she had made the right choice. The morning light filtered through the windows, soft and golden, waking Hailey gradually. It took a moment to remember where she was, to feel the weight of the arm around her, to recognize the warmth of the body pressed against her back. Scott. She was in his apartment, in his bed. After, "Good morning," his husky voice came from behind, his lips pressing softly against her shoulder. "Are you awake?" I am now. Sorry, didn't mean to wake you. You were sleeping so soundly." She turned in his arms, meeting his gray-blue eyes. Still sleepy but infinitely tender. "What time is it?" 6:30. You have time. You don't have to be at the office until 8, right? Right. They lay there for a few minutes, just looking at each other. "No regrets?" he asked softly. "None. You? My only regret is taking so long. Wasting a month when we could have had this. But we didn't waste it. Because now you're right, we're right." He pulled her into a slow morning kiss, which threatened to turn into something more before she gently pushed him away. "I need to go home, shower, change my clothes. Or," he suggested, his thumb tracing her lower lip, "you shower here. I'll lend you a shirt, and we stop by your apartment for you to pick up clothes before we head to the office." Tempting, then accept. And she accepted. 40 minutes later, she was wearing one of his button-down shirts. Sleeves rolled up, smelling of masculine soap and something purely him, while he made scrambled eggs in the kitchen. "You cook?" she asked, surprised, leaning against the counter. "I survive. It's not gourmet, but it's edible." They ate breakfast together, barefoot, clothes messy, hair still damp, domestic, intimate, real. And when he dropped her off at her apartment at 7:30 so she could get properly ready for work, the goodbye kiss was long and reluctant. "I'll see you at the office?" she asked. "Not today. I have a meeting in San Francisco. My flight leaves in 2 hours, but I'll call you tonight." "You better call. I promise." "And Hailey?" "Yes. Last night, this beginning, it was incredible. You are incredible." She smiled, stealing one more quick kiss. When she stepped into her apartment minutes later, Hailey leaned against the closed door, an idiotic smile on her face. They had done it, really done it. Overcome the fear, the distance, the mistakes. And now they had, what exactly? Her phone vibrated. It was a text from Scott. "I already miss you. Is that pathetic?" She smiled, texting back. "Totally pathetic. But me, too. Dinner when I get back tomorrow night. It's a date. Every day from now on is going to be a date. I hope you know what you're getting yourself into. I think I can handle it." "Good. Because I'm not letting you go that easy again." "Good. Because I wasn't planning on going anywhere." Hailey tossed her phone onto the sofa, still smiling, and went to get ready for work. For the first time in months, there was no anxiety, no doubt, no feeling of waiting for the other shoe to drop. There was only certainty. Certainty that Scott had grown, that she had grown, stronger, that together they had something real, something worth every difficult moment, every unshed tear, every night awake wondering if it was worth it. It was worth it. Absolutely worth it. And this was just the beginning. 3 months after that night in his apartment, Hailey was in the flagship resort's main ballroom, now transformed for the end-of-year party. Soft lights reflected off the tall glass, discreet garlands decorated the space, and elegant music created an atmosphere of contained celebration. She wore a sapphire blue dress that Scott had personally chosen. For the first time, Hailey wasn't there as Tyler's sister, or as the promising assistant everyone watched with professional curiosity. She was there as Scott Cooper's official girlfriend, his arm firm around her waist, without hiding, without excuses, without backing down. "You're nervous," he murmured close to her ear as they greeted investors and strategic partners. "I'm being judged by half the people here. Of course I'm nervous. They're not judging you, they're envious." And maybe he was right, because when Scott introduced her as his girlfriend to the board, chairman, the man just smiled, looking from one to the other with evident satisfaction. "It was about time," he commented. "You two practically changed the temperature of the room every time you were in it together." Tyler and Kate appeared later. He pulled his sister into a quick but meaningful hug. "Are you happy?" he asked, as direct as ever. "Very. Then I'm all good. But if he messes up, you'll break him into pieces. I know. You've told me about 20 times. Just making sure the message is clear." When the party came to an end and the last guest said, "Goodbye," the resort finally fell silent. Only the two of them remained on the outdoor balcony, the cool night air contrasting with the warmth that still lingered between them, under a sky dotted with stars. Scott reached into the inner pocket of his tuxedo jacket and pulled out a small box. "Before you panic," he said quickly, noticing her eyes widening. "It's not a ring. Not yet. Although I already know I'm going to ask you. But this..." He opened the box, revealing a delicate white gold necklace. with a tiny key pendant. "It's to let you know you have access to everything," he continued. "My apartment, my life, my heart. There are no locked doors between us, never again." Hailey let him put the necklace on, feeling the familiar touch of his fingers along her neck, something that could still make her heart race even after 3 months. "It's beautiful. You are beautiful, and I love you." It was the first time he had said the 3 full words, without hesitation, without fear. "I love you too," she replied, with the quiet certainty of someone who no longer needed to protect herself. "Even when you make me furious, even when you're stubborn, I love you. Always, always." 1 year later, Hailey was promoted to Regional Manager of Customer Experience, a new position created specifically for her after her implementation exceeded all projections. She now oversaw 5 resorts, reporting directly to the board, technically on the same hierarchical level as Scott. "I'm proud of you," he said when she told him the news, pulling her into a hug in the middle of her new office. "Bigger, with windows, with a view. You built this, all by yourself, not alone. You believed in me when I doubted myself. You never doubted yourself. You just needed the opportunity." They lived together now, in his apartment that had become theirs. Walls that were once white had gained color. Photos of them traveling filled shelves. Her clothes shared space in the closet. Pink toothbrush next to his blue, one in the bathroom. Small things, all meaningful. Tyler and Kate got engaged that fall, and Kate asked Hailey to be a bridesmaid. The wedding was set for the following spring, and there were already jokes about who would be next. "How long are you going to wait?" Kate asked during the Sunday brunch that now happened religiously. All together, without discomfort, without tension. "Until he has the guts to ask," Hailey replied, shooting a provocative glance at Scott. "I'm waiting for the right moment," he defended himself. "You complicate everything on purpose. And yet, you still love me, unfortunately." But both were smiling. The right moment came on a random Tuesday, 2 years after that first kiss at the Laguna Beach resort. Nothing elaborate, nothing rehearsed. They were in the apartment, Hailey reviewing reports on the sofa, Scott cooking, something that would probably burn in the kitchen. "Hailey? Marry me." She looked up from the laptop thinking she had misheard. "What?" Scott came out of the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel, and knelt beside the sofa. No box, no ring prepared. Just those gray-blue eyes, fixed on her with familiar intensity. "Marry me. Not because it's the next logical step or because we already live together, but because I wake up every day thankful that you gave me another chance. Because you make me want to be better. Because imagining a future without you is possible." "Scott, I know it's Tuesday. I know there's no ring. I know this is probably the least romantic proposal in history, but I can't wait anymore. I can't plan something elaborate when all I want is to hear you say yes." "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Of course, yes." "Of course? Did you really think I was going to say no?" He laughed, pulling her from the sofa to the floor with him, kissing her until both were breathless. "We'll buy the ring tomorrow," he promised. "You choose. Anyone you want. I don't care about the ring. I care about you. You're going to have both." The wedding took place 6 months later. The ceremony was at a winery in Temecula. Just close family and intimate friends. Tyler as best man, Kate as maid of honor, smiling so much it looked like she was going to burst with happiness. The vows were simple, honest. Hailey promised never to let him run away from difficult conversations. Scott promised never to run away again, period. Both promised to choose each other, every day, even when it was hard. And when the officiant finally said, "You may kiss the bride," Scott scooped her up, making her laugh against his lips while the guests applauded. "I love you, Mrs. Cooper," he whispered. "Only at work. In everything else, I'm yours." Then we are in agreement. 3 years of marriage brought changes. Scott took on the executive vice presidency of the entire resort chain. Hailey became the youngest director of customer experience in the company's history. They traveled together to oversee properties. They worked on collaborative projects. They built not just a marriage, but a true partnership. And then, one December morning, Hailey woke up nauseous. "It must be something you ate," Scott said, worried, holding her hair while she leaned over the toilet. "I didn't eat anything different. Then maybe it's the flu." But it wasn't the flu. 2 weeks later, sitting in the doctor's office looking at the ultrasound screen, they saw it. Twins, the doctor announced, smiling. Congratulations. Scott went white, then red, then squeezed Hailey's hand so hard that she had to remind him to breathe. 2, he said, as if he couldn't process it. 2 babies. At the same time. Apparently we don't do things by halves, Hailey joked. But she was also in shock. That night lying in bed, he placed his hand on her belly that didn't show signs yet. Scott whispered, I'm terrified. Me too. How are we going to take care of 2 at the same time? We'll figure it out. Together. Together, he repeated, kissing her belly. The 3 of us. I mean, 4. 4. Violet was born first, at 3 in the morning on a rainy Thursday, screaming indignantly at the cold world. Camille came 3 minutes later, quieter, with curious eyes. Scott held both of them, one in each arm, and Hailey saw the exact moment. His heart broke and mended itself, expanding to fit all that new love. They're perfect, he whispered, awestruck. How did you manage to make something so perfect? We made them. Together. Together. And now, 5 years later, Hailey was in the kitchen of the new house they had bought, in Newport Coast, preparing pancakes while watching Scott play in the garden with the twins through the window. Violet, at 5 years old, was fearless as her name suggested. She climbed trees, chased insects, demanded answers to every why that existed. Camille was more contemplative, preferring illustrated books and drawings, but with a stubbornness that rivaled her sister's. Daddy, throw me higher, Violet shouted, hanging from his arms. Higher, and you'll go to space. I want to go to space. Of course you do, Hailey murmured, smiling. Camille was beside her, waiting patiently for her turn, holding a drawing she had made that morning. Mommy, look, she yelled, running inside when she saw Hailey at the window. I drew our family. Hailey took the paper, her heart tightening in that good way. 4 stick figures, 2 large, 2 small, all holding hands. Yellow sun in the corner, house with a smoking chimney. It's beautiful, my love. Are you crying? They are tears of happiness. Why are you happy? Because I have everything I ever wanted. Scott walked in at that moment, with Violet still clinging to his back like a monkey, his hair completely messy. Save me, he pleaded dramatically. I've been captured by pirates. We're not pirates, Violet protested. We're astronauts. Sorry, dangerous astronauts. The pancakes were served on a chaotic table, syrup dripping everywhere, Violet telling an elaborate story about aliens, Camille drawing more family portraits, and when the girls were finally put to bed after 3 stories, 2 glasses of water, and countless requests for 5 more minutes, Scott and Hailey collapsed on the sofa, exhausted. They're going to kill us, said, but he was smiling. Was it worth it? Every second. Hailey snuggled against him, his hand automatically going to her hair, fingers tracing familiar patterns. Do you remember? She asked. That first Tuesday when I showed up with iced coffee? I remember every Tuesday and Thursday. Every time you walked into that office and made my whole day better. You fought against it so hard. I was an idiot. You were, she agreed. But you learned. I learned that loving you was the easy part. Admitting that I loved you was the hard part. And now, he pulled her closer, kissing the top of her head. Now I say it every day, to you, to them, to anyone who wants to listen. I love Hailey Bryant Cooper. I love the life we built. I love the family we made. Hailey, the stubborn, incredible woman who made me a better man. They fell silent, just listening to the gentle sounds of the house, the hum of the air conditioning, the ticking of the clock on the wall, the deep breaths of the twins sleeping upstairs. Are you happy? Scott asked. The same question Tyler had asked years ago. Unimaginably happy. Even with the chaos? With the sleepless nights, with pancakes on the ceiling? Especially because of it. Because it's our chaos, our family, our life. Our, he repeated, as if testing the weight of the word. I like that. Me too. And there, on that worn sofa, in the house full of scattered toys and drawings on the walls with 2 girls sleeping upstairs and the future stretching brightly ahead, Hailey knew with absolute certainty. All the fear had been worth it. All the teasing, all the waiting, every difficult moment, every honest conversation, every time they chose to stay instead of run. Because some stories didn't start with love at first sight. They started with resistance, denial, fear of the unknown. But when two people finally had the courage to stop fighting the inevitable, to admit what the heart already knew, to choose each other every day, even when it was scary, those were the stories that lasted, the ones that mattered, the ones worth every second of the struggle. And as Scott pulled her even closer, whispering "I love you" against her hair as he did every night, Hailey smiled, because she had everything, absolutely everything, and not a second of regret. This story is about desire, fear, and the courage to admit your feelings when everything feels forbidden. If you've ever loved deeply but faced impossible boundaries, this story is for you. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and hype the video to support the story.